because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is he? What's he doing
They
there?
already know who you are, though.
Don't miss this special reunion. Eamon and Anne together again only on GB News Breakfast this weekend from 6 a.m.
And is that a gardening
No,
tan?
no, it's a cypress tan.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister gets his one-in, one-out migration deal with France.
The very first time migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
But at what cost, as President Macron blames Brexit for the small boats crisis in a display that has some up in arms?
Is Brexit Britain? We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president.
And all on the same day as nearly 700 people crossed the channel, as we saw live on this breakfast show yesterday. Has this government lost control of Britain's borders?
Meanwhile, the man behind deciding how the government would formally define Islamophobia has spoken exclusively to GB News for Chopper's Political podcast. Here's a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression.
The first hosepipe ban of the year comes into force in Yorkshire as temperatures are set to reach 32 degrees today.
And the 12th of July is almost upon us. We're looking ahead to how Ulster Protestants plan to remember the Battle of the Boyne.
Is the key to a happy relationship working with Dawn Neeson? No, I mean separate bedrooms for couples. That's the word on the street. But does it hold up? We'll be debating just that at 7:20 a.m.
Wow, the late Pope Francis once described her voice as angelic. The one and only Carly Powley, classical singing legend, treats us to a very special performance live in the studio.
A very good morning. The big three of Alcaraz, Sinner and Djokovic are all in semi-final action at Wimbledon today, but there are still fitness doubts over the latter two. And in cricket, Joe Root resumes on 99 for England ahead of day 2 of the third test against India at Lord's.
The heat peaks today and into tomorrow across many parts of the UK. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's just gone 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Dawn Newsom, and this is GB News Breakfast. So good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this gorgeous... It's Friday, isn't it?
Friday.
Congratulations, you made it to Friday. I have no idea what day it is.
The Friday feeling, do you remember that?
Yeah, Friday feeling.
Yes!
It was a famous chocolate bar.
Yeah. It was, yes, absolutely.
The honey came in the middle.
And it's going to be a long, hot weekend, isn't it?
It really will be.
You're looking forward to it?
32, yes, very much so. I've got my new linen suit to wear.
Very smart as well, it has to be said.
I wear suits at work, and normally I get like roasting outside
yes,
when
I
I'm
know.
working.
How was yesterday?
It's busy, it was, I interviewed Kemi Badenoch, we'll see you later, and also went to that press conference over in...
Macron.
Army headquarters.
May, did you answer your question in French?
No, the problem was a colleague of ours asked the question in French, so he replied in French, so we didn't know what it asked.
Everyone was going, what were you talking about?
We had a translation, but it would be in maybe, because he talks good English, Macron. When he wants to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a lot of French people, isn't it? Yeah,
like a lot of footballers.
Yes, yeah. And it's like when you go to France, you go on a day trip to France, people still do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, everybody in the cafes and the bars and the shops speaks perfect English. And you say, I would like to buy this, and they look at you, what are you talking they pretend not to understand whatsoever.
The amount of press conferences I've done down the years with famous footballers who... the club employs an interpreter because maybe they think their English is maybe 70 or 80% not quite there, not quite confident to engage in a press conference. And the amount of times I've seen the interpreter, they give their version of what they think the player has said, and the player's been looking at them like that, going, what the hell's that? You know.
I think in French things sound better, like pain au chocolat.
Yeah.
Chocolate bread.
Yes, I know.
Would you eat chocolate bread?
No, but everything sounds sexier in French.
Pain au chocolat, of course you have pain au chocolat, but...
Everything sounds... But then my favourite story about language today was Donald Trump and the President of Liberia.
Oh, right.
And Donald Trump was praising the President of Liberia, of the African country, for talking such brilliant English, obviously not thinking that the actual official language of Liberia is English.
Yes.
So, and his English was actually better than Donald Trump's. And indeed mine, by the way.
Yes.
Do you know what the fourth most spoken language in Argentina is?
Oh.
Welsh.
Yes.
How did I know that? Yes.
Absolutely
in
correct.
Patagonia?
Yes.
Yes,
I've
been to Patagonia, that's how I know that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Do you speak Welsh?
Do I speak Welsh? No, I'm struggling with English, Aidan, come on.
I think when World Cups happen, the Welsh flags have run out in Patagonia.
Yeah, well, we've got loads of sport coming up, haven't we?
We have indeed.
Well,
Big day today with the semi-finals at Wimbledon. I'll be right across it.
Yes, yeah. Actually, a packed news day for you. So whatever you are doing, you don't want to move a muscle, put the kettle on, have a nice cup of tea and join us for your breakfast, because we have got a huge show coming up for you.
It's a big show, but big news yesterday where the PM has secured a one-in, one-out migrants deal with France to curb small boat crossings. He hailed the groundbreaking scheme at the Anglo Summit yesterday at UK Army headquarters.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
While French President Emmanuel Macron claims he is totally committed to the pilot scheme commencing in just weeks. The deal will not be able to go ahead without the approval of the EU Commission, though.
Emmanuel Macron didn't hold back with his anti-Brexit rhetoric in his speech, attacking the 2016 vote by claiming the British people, that's us, were sold a lie.
I know it's not your case, Prime Minister, but many people in your country explained that Brexit would make it possible to fight more effectively against illegal immigration. But it's in fact since Brexit that UK has no migratory agreement with the EU. In fact, it creates an incentive to make the crossing the precise opposite what the Brexit has promised.
early in the day. Sir Keir himself inferred Brexit pioneer Nigel Farage should focus on solution rather than boat watching and chasing the problem itself. Nigel, however, claimed leaving the ECHR was the real solution.
This is Brexit Britain. We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president. But I think what we're facing here is a national security emergency. Australia stopped it by towing the boats back to Indonesia. We will stop it by leaving the ECHR, by getting the right to deport. That will work. If it doesn't, in the end, we'll take the boats back to France.
It was a very interesting show yesterday because we watched that boat. It's on the front pages of all your newspapers today, pretty much. Certainly the Telegraph, I think, I got it across the whole... Yeah, absolutely. Right across the front page. It's one boat, and we watched it live on The Breakfast Show yesterday, and it was quite astonishing. It was escorted by the French Navy to the middle of the Channel, where the British Border Force picked it up, all in full view of GB News cameras. And as you can see, that boat is absolutely jam-packed with young, fighting-age men, not a single woman or child on there.
What can you say? Well, the deputy editor spiked online, Fraser Myers, joins us now. Fraser, good morning.
Fraser.
Great to see you. Now, I was lucky enough to be there at this press conference last night with Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer, and I'm always fascinated because when you're there in the room, you don't get the full detail, but the details emerged since that announcement last night. And it turns out that it could be vetoed by southern European states because the Dublin Convention means that these arrivals will be sent back from France, if they come from the UK, to where they came in, and they won't like that much.
Well, yeah, there's so many hurdles to this actually getting off the ground, not just European countries, as you say. As soon as the first migrant is sent back to France, you better believe there'll be legal challenges from them. They will be using their human rights under Article 3 and Article 8 of the ECHR, as we've seen with many other illegal migrants. And unfortunately, you know, that is pretty much a carte blanche to stay in the UK when you have a combination of the European Convention and homegrown activist judges. I mean, recently we've had people being able to stay in the UK for being illiterate, for...
It says it here, small boat migrants will be able to launch legal challenges against being removed even to France, as we saw through all the Rwanda battles. It's like Groundhog Day again, Fraser.
Absolutely. And so what this goes to show is that they haven't solved the fundamental problem, which is that when people arrive here, there is basically zero chance of them being removed. And even this scheme, which Keir Starmer has billed as a one-in, one-out scheme, well, actually, on the numbers that France are envisaging of returning, it's more like a 17 in, one out, because only around 50 people a week are set to be set to be removed.
We don't even know that. That was briefed ahead of the deal. It's not announced yesterday. No. We haven't got a number yesterday. We were told 50, weren't we, Dawn? But
we were. That was what was going to happen. But the devil is always in the detail, and there was no detail given yesterday at all. It was a grand announcement of this scheme, which literally everybody said, how is it going to work? And certainly when you, as we've already said, the southern European countries are going to say, well, hold on a minute. If we apply the rules, and we should have applied them already, the first country migrants land in is where they have to apply for asylum. And they're not doing that now, so...
Yeah, and understandably, Italy, Spain, Greece, those countries are already burdened with their own massive problems of illegal migration. So it's not as if they want to have even more people being sent back there. And actually, that kind of disproves Macron's point that Brexit is the problem here. Because if being in the EU were the solution to illegal migration, you just have to say, well, look at Europe's southern border. Yeah. It's also worth stressing that we did have, when we did have a sort of returns agreement under the Dublin rules with the EU, in 2019, we sent, I think, 21 people back in the entire year. So at least Starmer is actually improving if he gets his 50 a week. That's an improvement on when we left the EU. It's still pretty
I think we're just showing on screen there the clip of the boat arriving yesterday laden with young men, Dawn, of course, live on this channel.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. I mean, we'll wait and see how it plays out. The other point that we didn't hear yesterday was a deal or the agreement of French police to intercept migrants in the water. So we saw last week French police going in with a knife with the BBC cameras helpfully watching on, but we've heard nothing since then.
Well, we wonder if they would carry on doing that if the BBC cameras weren't there, because the accusation is always that the French are not pulling their weight. I think everyone understands that it's not in France's interest to stop people who are, living there in camps. the French would rather they were in Britain, frankly. So you can kind of understand why they would let this.
That was officially the world's most expensive knife, wasn't it? I mean, it's £750 million we paid the French to stab one dinghy. Well done.
On that point, one thing he did yesterday, Emmanuel Macron, was every pound we spend, they spend €3. So they say there's a huge burden on their northern French communities. But so perhaps it's in his interest to move them on to Britain.
I think, yeah, or there might be, you know, in the longer run, an interest to stop this trade, and then perhaps people won't gather in northern France. That would be, you know, that might be another way of looking at it. But I think for now, the French see it. Given it, you know, they would rather those people make that journey than stay in Calais.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fraser. You'll be coming back to discuss this further later in the show. And, of course, this show is about you, so let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. You've all seen the pictures. You saw them live on Breakfast Show yesterday.
That's right.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about this agreement? One in, one out.
But it's warm out there. Time for your weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today, and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK, and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland. A few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning, and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky, and temperatures responding very well, not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening, and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts, and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come, and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast. We've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast. But elsewhere, temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius, and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
Indeed. The former Conservative Attorney-General in charge of drawing up the first ever legal definition of Islamophobia has spoken out about his plans for the very first time in Chopper's Political Podcast. Here's a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression under law. There is an issue surrounding freedom of expression as against the desire of many Muslims to have some kind of definition which provides a measure of a framework which may help protect them, because they're undoubtedly at the moment the victims of really unpleasant anti-Muslim hatred. You know, a respectable lady travelling with a headscarf on the bus will get casual abuse. And this is driving a wedge in our society that is, in my view, very dangerous. We are there to operate within that framework, and some of the stuff I'm reading about this is just, excuse my saying it, garbage.
But Dominic Grieves' reassurances have not been enough to assuage the fears of Tory leader Kemi Badenoch.
I have been very clear. We don't need a new definition of Islamophobia. You look at the grooming gangs issue, lots of people were afraid of being labelled as Islamophobic and they didn't report what was going on, they didn't try to fix what was going on, and look at all of those young girls who paid the price. We had a definition on anti-Muslim hatred that allowed us to have equality under the law. You can't attack people because of their religion or what they look like. But no religion should be free from criticism in this country.
And you can watch and listen to the full interview with Dominic Grieve on this week's episode of Chopper's Political Podcast on gbnews.com and all your normal podcast platforms.
Now, 3 police officers who confronted the Southport killer Axel Rudabakana have been voted Britain's bravest officers. And why not? The trio from Merseyside Police Force helped to disarm and arrest the murderer after he attacked a group of children at a dance workshop in Southport last year, killing 3 little girls, Alice De Silva Aguiar, BB King and Elsie Dot Stankham.
And the government is urging GPs to issue fewer sick notes and instead direct patients towards gyms and support services to help more people to return to work. It comes as the number of NHS fit notes hits 11 million last year, more than double the figure in 2015.
Sir Keir Starmer has agreed to meet Donald Trump during the president's visit to Scotland, which could take place within weeks. According to reports, the date and venue are yet to be finalised. It follows concerns over the impact the trip will have on local policing. But Scotland's Deputy Chief Constable Alan Spears has insisted that there are sufficient resources in place.
Welcome back. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Chris and Dawn. Thank you so much for your company this morning. And now it's time for my favourite part of the day, our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Jordan, and I'm a vicar in the Church of England. This week, we've been exploring the parable of the prodigal son. Jesus tells us a story of a father with 2 sons. The younger one takes the inheritance and squanders it all and returns destitute, asking for forgiveness. The older is diligent and works really hard for his father. The older is offended that the father forgave and celebrated the younger brother. So the father comes out to plead with his older son to engage in the party he's thrown for his younger brother. Jesus tells us the older son replies, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your royal orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat to celebrate with my friends." The son is so angry at his father, but he misunderstands who his father is and what he's like. The son worked for his father, but never really got to know his father's heart. The father replies, "My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours." As Christians, we believe God is like this extravagant father. And by this, Jesus suggests that sometimes we can assume negative things about people because we don't really know them. But by engaging in real relationship, we might begin to see otherwise.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now there's plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321.
54321.
Thank you, Dawn. 54321. And here's all the details you need to a chance to make it all yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hello, welcome back. The country is experiencing its third heat wave of the year as Brits brace for scorching temperatures.
We've already seen wildfires destroy grasslands in East London as Raynham lost hectares of shrubland.
And experts warn that soaring temperatures could kill up to 34,000 people by the year 2070. I hate all these scary figures. I'm sorry, I do. So what on earth is going on? To tell us more, we're joined in the studio by meteorologist Nathan Rao.
Good morning.
Nathan, good morning. Thank you so much for coming in to see us. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Phew, what a scorcher, Nathan.
It is.
Tabloids would say.
As we would say in the tabloids, yes, another week, another heat wave. This, as you said, is the third heat wave of summer. Today it's going to be quite warm, 32 degrees. The Met Office is saying, but it's actually tomorrow we're expecting the peak of 34 degrees. And that is going to be mainly in the south and the west of the country. Usually it's the southeast of the country that sees the hotter temperatures. They're actually looking at the west of the country. And then through the weekend, even though it's going to be slightly cooler on Sunday, still a very, very hot weekend ahead. Must mention that the very east coast of the UK might be a bit cooler because they're going to get an easterly. But for the rest of the country, a few days again of very, very warm weather coming up. And we are in heatwave territory, which is 3 or more days of temperatures breaching the threshold, which is 28 degrees in the south of the country. And it varies around the country about what their averages are. And there is a UK Health Security Agency heatwave health alert in force until Tuesday, which, as you always talk about when we get these hot weathers, is really in place for the elderly and the vulnerable to take extra care.
OK, the elderly and vulnerable means anyone over 65, so that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you...
Rules you out. Rules us all out.
It's lots of people I know, by the way. But, I mean, it doesn't sound that old, and most of the people I know that are in that age group are going... I don't need this advice. I survived. Drum roll, please. 1976.
Yeah, and we always talk. I always get a lot of mentions about 1976 when we talk about the hot weather and how people, we've survived it before. The UK Health Security Agency puts these warnings out not as something to terrify us all to stay in our houses, but really as a warning that the excess deaths during hot summer weather do tend to increase. These are the excess deaths that are recorded by the Office for National Statistics. Every year there's a baseline level. And during periods of very, very hot weather or very cold weather, the excess deaths do increase. So it is only prudent to warn that people who have got pre-existing health conditions like heart conditions, lung conditions, the elderly, the very, very young, just to take extra precautions if we get sustained temperatures above a level at which their health may be at risk. And that is just to take precautions like stay out of the sun during the very hottest time of the day between 11 and 3, pull the curtains during the day. I know that sounds really boring, but if the sun is beating into the house, it can get very, very warm. And if the temperatures don't come down overnight, they're called tropical nights, that is also when it can become very stressful for the body if you're in that category for health conditions. So it's just about taking precautions and being careful.
And we're seeing wildfires already breaking out overnight in East London.
In Rainham, yes, that's right. Now, this is the second in a week, actually, in Rainham. And we've also had wildfires this summer and spring in Wales. So wildfires are actually a problem in the UK, particularly when we have got the very warm weather that we've got, but also the very dry weather. It has been the driest spring on record in parts of the country. So the ground is very dry, the grassland is dried out. It's very important to point out that it's very unlikely that the weather causes fires. Fires are usually caused by cigarette ends, barbecues.
They're caused by people,
They're caused by people.
Yes.
But this very, very dry weather and very, very hot weather and the warm breeze can push those fires along, as we've seen in Rainham. I think it was 10 hectares in Rainham. Thankfully, no injuries. It was put out by around 6 p.m. last night. But with this hot weather and dry weather likely to continue through the coming days and possibly weeks, this may become more of an issue.
So what is this weather caused by? I mean, it's normally a heat plume or a heat dome.
A heat dome or a heat bomb or a
time?
heat explosion.
Yes.
Or with our lovely tabloid newspapers, of which I have been a member of, think up these lovely, glorious names. What we've got at the moment is a combination of high pressure, which we love in the summer. Now, I always say that we spend around 8 months of the year, us Brits in the UK, moaning and groaning about the cold weather. And I know this particularly, Dawn, because I'm usually sat with you talking about it in the autumn.
When's the hot weather? About the cold weather a bit.
Yeah, she does it. She does a little bit. So when it comes, this is our summer. What we've got at the moment is high pressure over the UK. What caused the last heat wave, which we were talking about, heat domes, was boosted by a plume of hot air from the continent. We're not actually getting that at the moment. This is what they call homegrown hot air.
Oh, right.
Homegrown hot weather. So it's high pressure over the UK and strong sunshine at this time of year. July and August are the hottest months of the year. It is July after all, so we're going to get that hot weather.
But we used to call summer back in the old days.
Summer.
We always go on about 1976. To me, I was 11 years old. It sums up memories of long, sunny bike rides, just disappearing, gorgeous, endless days, obviously long school holidays. It was beautiful. But it's not the only hot summer we've had. We have had them before.
Yeah, we've had them before, and we've had them subsequently. We've had 35 degrees, which is what we're looking at this week, 34 degrees, and people always mention the 35 we had in 1976. But we had it, I think, in 1925. We've had it in 1940-something, I think. My memory
41,
is
I think
41,
it was.
I think it was. And we will all remember 2022, and we had 40.3, which was the hottest temperature ever recorded in Coningsbury, Lincolnshire. What the issue is, we're seeing them more frequently. So it's not that we have never seen temperatures in the 30s before. We're tending to see them more frequently year on year. So, and it's very interesting to point out that I was looking at the weather progs, they call them, which is the diagnostics, the prediction models, a couple of weeks ago, and it was pointing out 40 degrees again. Now, we saw this in 2022, and at the time, the meteorologists were saying, we'll never see it, it's an outlier, something called an outlier, it's the model making a mistake. And then we got it, we got 40.3. So when I saw this 10 days ago, I thought, now that it's happened once, it's not out of the question it can happen again. So the moral of the story is we're seeing a greater frequency of hotter than average temperatures, and we've already had 40.3, so it could happen again.
And we're looking on screen now how brown The countryside is, when I get my trains to and fro from London and back, it is very brown, the fields.
And we already have our first hosepipe ban in Yorkshire.
Yes, 5 million people in Yorkshire today. If you wash your cars with a hosepipe or water your gardens.
Just finally, this weekend is hotter than where in the world? We normally say it's hotter than Barbados or hotter than somewhere else.
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm usually good at answering this. So we pick Ibiza, that's usually a good taboo.
Normally,
Barbados or Hawaii are very popular ones. Or if in doubt, pick somewhere in Australia where it's winter.
Right, well, Nathan, Ralph, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Let's see how hot we are by looking at the weather on the continent. Here's your European weather forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK will experience Mediterranean-like temperatures on Saturday, it's not going to be quite as hot through the Mediterranean as it has been recently. For the Canaries and for Madeira, fairly typical conditions of the time of year. Breezy, partly cloudy, otherwise fine. But we've got this area of thunderstorms developing across northern Spain, the Pyrenees, Andorra, southern France. They could be quite lively. And for Italy, for Greece, sunny spells, not quite as hot, but it is going to heat up into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Now, if you're travelling to work or school, here is your traffic and travel update. And don't forget to stay on with us on digital radio.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Starting in Scotland, the A701 northbound at the Bloomfield roundabout is closed due to Scottish Gas Network's emergency works. Motorists should follow signed diversion routes to avoid delays and expect extended journey times. On the M4 eastbound from junction 30 Cardiff Gate to junction 32 Corriton, road resurfacing has caused closures with diversions. In Warwickshire, there's congestion on the A5 southbound between its junctions with the A51 and the M42. And on the trains, Hull Trains has a reduced service, and ScotRail experiences disruptions between Partick and Belgrove. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say...
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time to go through all the latest sport news with Aidan McGee. Aidan.
Good to see you both.
Morning.
Exciting day of Wimbledon yesterday, another one in store today. Now, on paper at least, Jannik Sinner against Novak Djokovic should be a clash for the ages. Novak Djokovic, the 24-time Grand Slam winner, he's chasing the 25th to leave him outright ahead of Margaret Court in both men and women's section to be the greatest ever player in terms of winning Grand Slams. He's also aiming to match Roger Federer's haul of 8 Wimbledons, but his nemesis is Jannik Sinner. My concern, though, Dawn, is that Jannik Sinner was wearing an elbow sleeve in his last match against Ben Shelton. He was injured before that as well against Grigor Dimitrov, the Bulgarian 34-year-old. He was 2 sets down in that one. He was lucky to still be in the tournament because eventually it was suspended and it was moved on. But today, let's hope he's recovered because he looked great against Shelton. We're hoping it's not going to be a problem. Djokovic against Flavio Boccoli pulled up late on. He was hobbling a little bit. So we're hoping that it doesn't impact the quality of the match today, because you would fancy that in the other semi-final, Carlos Alcaraz is going to get past Taylor Fritz. Taylor Fritz, I saw him play twice on the same day at Eastbourne a few weeks ago. I couldn't have predicted he was going to be a Wimbledon semi-finalist. He's not really somebody who troubles the latter stages of Grand Slams, to be honest with you. But he's in action today against Alcaraz as well. And as I say, a brilliant day yesterday, a huge upset in the women's semi-final. Amanda Anisimova of the US, 23 years old. Last year, she got knocked out of qualifying.
Wow.
And here she is in a final, having beaten Arina Sabalenka in 3 sets, which was absolutely extraordinary.
It was a bit of a shocker.
I mean, she took a few years out of the sport to look after her mental health because her father died. She really suffered with grief in that period. But I mean, if you look back in the midst of time, I mean, she was a French Open semi-finalist in 2019. Yeah. She won the US Open girls final, beating Coco Gauff. She was in 2017. She was probably at her peak, but she's had a real lull in her career. But she looks like she's bringing back some of that pedigree, and she's in the final again. And the other match, Iga Swiatek, the world #1, beats Belinda Bencic of Switzerland. So we've got a final there tomorrow. Good day's play today. I think it will go deep into the night.
What a great story. I wonder whether the crowd might go behind Djokovic. He has been the villain sometimes, but I remember when Ivan Lendl, back in the 80s.
Gosh, yes.
Remember him?
Couldn't win Wimbledon, could he?
No, and originally the crowd no one liked him, but towards the end of his time, the crowd loved him because they wanted to see him win something.
He won 8 Grand Slams, so French, Australian, US, and he was in 2 Wimbledon finals, I think, as well as a couple of semis. You just could not get over the line on the grass. It was, in those days, the grass was seen as something separate. You were either a grass court specialist or a clay specialist or hard. Sometimes you were good at 2. Very rare that you were an all-rounder. It wasn't until the era of really Federer and Nadal, where, I mean, Federer and Nadal, Djokovic won all 4 several times, but that wasn't a common thing. You used to get guys like Mats Wilander, who only used to win the French Open, or Thomas Muster in the early 90s, who only ever used to win on the hard court. So it's mainly about the upbringing. If you play in Spain, if you grew up in Spain, you're usually used to the clay. Over here, you're more likely to be on hard
Aidan,
grass.
one thing, we've just been talking about the weather, and it's going to be an exceptionally hot weekend, obviously. We normally, Wimbledon, it's raining, obviously, because it being the British summer. Do they have anything prepared for it being exceptionally hot weather? Obviously not on the centre court, I appreciate that's got the roof and everything, but what about the outer courts? What do they do about that?
Outer court, well, it's not an issue now, I don't think, because you're not going to see much play out there. But no, they're not really. I mean, it's, you know, don't forget, the temperatures here are quite mild compared to... I mean, if you think back to 2012, the Australian Open final between Nadal and Djokovic, I mean, I was looking at that. They went into a fifth set. It was a marathon five-setter. It was an incredible match, and they were just absolutely soaked through. There was sweat around them on the floor, and I don't know what the actual on-court temperature peaked at. It was over 100 degrees, though. It was absolutely extraordinary, and I started thinking here, these two are superhuman.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely incredible. But so relatively temperate here compared to what they deal with elsewhere. But it promises to be a great day today, and a great day yesterday as well.
And just very quickly on the cricket and other football news today.
Yes, Joe Root was on 99 overnight. England will resume this morning against India on day 2 of the third test on 251 for 4. Not a very forgiving wicket. It's been a slow over rate, 3 overs. Three runs per over. So Bazball not really at its peak, but England hoping to make some progress.
OK, good.
Aidan, see you second round.
See you next hour. Great to see you.
OK, still to come, we'll be joined by broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon and political commentator Duncan Barks to go through all the papers.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK will experience Mediterranean-like temperatures on Saturday, it's not going to be quite as hot through the Mediterranean as it has been recently. For the Canaries and for Madeira, fairly typical conditions of the time of year. Breezy, partly cloudy, otherwise fine. But we've got this area of thunderstorms developing across northern Spain, the Pyrenees, Andorra, southern France. They could be quite lively. And for Italy, for Greece, sunny spells. Not quite as hot, but it is going to heat up into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Welcome to the Bakerloo line, where over the last year, 2 years, every single carriage seems to have been just absolutely covered in graffiti. So we're out this morning to try and do what the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, seemingly can't. Let's clean up the tube. Look, these doors used to be covered in graffiti, but no more. See, it's not impossible.
Not impossible it is, because there is so much that can actually be done. And just a few friends of mine, actually a guy called Joe Reeve, who organised this all, he's from the campaign group Looking for Growth. He got in touch and said, do I want to come? And I was like, absolutely, I bloomin' do. Because I think we can show some pictures of some of our work, which was just on Sunday morning. And it was actually remarkably simple. What we did was we sprayed the graffiti with sort of anti-graffiti spray, eco-friendly anti-graffiti spray, actually, as it is.
I didn't know the thing.
A bit of scrubbing, and look, it just comes off. I mean, this stuff is not rocket science. A total lack of imagination, a total unwillingness to do anything about the sort of social decay that we're seeing in our cities in the country at the moment. A laziness, a profound laziness and lack of political will at the heart of the governance of London that means that people are just like, oh, the washing machine's broken, we'll just live with this social decay. Well, no, you don't have to live with the social decay. You can come up with new ways to do things. You can give some people some sponges, some water and some graffiti spray and get that stuff off. It's not impossible. Pull your socks up, Sadiq. Do something about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Joining us to go through what's making the news is political commentator Duncan Barks and broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon.
Good to see you. Both looking very summery for this weather, it has to be said.
It's warm.
It's pure what scorcher, Duncan. Come on, get with the tabloid. Pure what scorcher. Get with the tabloid flow. Right, what are we starting with today then?
The sick note culture, Claire.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so we've got a crackdown to cure UK of sick note epidemic. Who knew it? And this is coming from our wonderful health secretary, and I think should be the Prime Minister, Wes Streeting. So GPs have been told to prescribe job coaches and the gym. Now they're making it sounds almost as if now if you go to the doctor, you say, well, you've googled obviously your symptoms, so you know what's wrong.
You know you're dying.
You are
literally know you're dying already.
You know your own body and you know your own mind. Anyway, you present with certain symptoms, and the doctor will say, OK, fine. So why are you here? I want a sick note. I want to be off work. I don't want to work from home. I don't actually want to work because, I'm really not feeling it today. I'm really not feeling it. So instead of moving to the job centre when you don't have a job, they're moving the job centre, as it would appear, to 15 NHS agencies in the country. Now, bear in mind, this is only in England because Wales and Scotland, as we know, have got their own devolved powers for health and education amongst killing the countries that they're supposed to be governing, and education. So I think, in part, this might be a good thing. I'm just concerned that they've now got the ability, in terms of finance, to actually finance it. And I think it might actually put people off. If they might perceive themselves have been giving a note for the gym instead of a note for off work, it might help. But I think we have to do something. And at least Wes, in his infinite wisdom, is starting to implement this, which is some form of change. Yeah. And I think it might be a good change.
Okay, Duncan, the employment coaches, you're going to be prescribed an employment coach? I mean, how does that work? What's happening?
Well, I don't know how it's going to work, but it's the ultimate state intervention, isn't it? The idea that you rock up at the GP surgery for whatever reason, they go, you need to talk to this person here because for whatever reason your illness or your complaint isn't that particularly justified. It'll be fascinating to see if it works. Fair play to Wes Streeting. He's trying to do something about it. I was reading the other day, though, that some GPs are quite openly saying, do you know what? When we get people to come into our surgeries, they sit in front of us, we haven't got 10 minutes to go through all of their ailments. So what we'll do is just go, here you are, have a sick note. Where do you want to sign it? Job done. And I think that's part of the problem as well.
It's been happening for years. And on the flip side, those GPs themselves are struggling.
Yeah.
They are struggling hugely with the contracts that have just been changed, with the ability of people... Everyone has got a story, not only about the GP's receptionist, but the GP themselves. I can't see them, never be able to see them in person. Yeah. So this is actually going to get it back, I think, on track, and I really hope it does, because we need to get people working.
Well,
we need to get the country back on track.
We've got 2.8 million out of work due to health conditions.
And some of these health conditions, I mean, I'm not going to at people or anything else, but some of these health conditions, honestly, you wouldn't... I think, what's wrong with... There's nothing wrong with me, you know? Yeah. And I think we need to get that back. We need to get some of this resilience back.
But this gets us into the whole mental health issue, doesn't it? Where, you know, and this is not about, again, atting people, but the definition over the years has changed. And I think it's fair to say all of us around this table here might look at people who say, I've got anxiety, and just go, well, that's life. You get nerves. I know it sounds harsh, but sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you feel a little bit flaky and wobbly, but that is life. That doesn't mean you cannot work. And I think the attitudes have gone so far in one direction, it's going to take a bit of time to actually pull them back.
Yeah, it all started with that Keep the Heads Together campaign with the royal family back in the day.
Yes, with Harry and the Fab Four, wasn't it?
OK, listen, so, but talking about not working, pupil exclusion at record high, Claire.
Unbelievable. And do you know what really exacerbated me when I read this? Primary school increase of 24% of primary school children being excluded.
Yeah.
And it's verbal and it's physical assault of teachers and fellow pupils. This is destructive and it's not going to help society move forward. And I put it all back to the parents. If you have a child presenting that cannot sit still, that presents that doesn't want to be there, even we've read this week, children are presenting they can't speak, they're not even toilet trained. And then we've now got 24% increase on primary school children being excluded.
You also have kids going to school and being taught how to brush their teeth, because that's, again, something
and leave a run out.
You know, the parents have refused to do or can't be bothered to do or whatever. So you have teachers who are fulfilling the role as parents, in some cases having to feed those kids as well, teaching them how to use the loo, brushing their teeth. It's just ridiculous.
Duncan, don't you think we need to actually question what parents are doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, do we need parenting lessons?
We do. Look, you're talking to someone who's quite hardcore on this. Quite frankly, you shouldn't be allowed to have children unless you can pass an exam. That's where I sit on it. It's ridiculous. Gracious. Well, come on, there's some basic stuff there. If your child goes to school and doesn't know how to use the loo, you are letting your child down, right, as a parent. I don't think that's particularly harsh for you, is it?
So, Claire, you need a parenting certificate before you can have a child.
I mean, that's pretty outrageous, and our viewers will know I've got a huge, strong stance on this. I don't like children. I've got 4 of them. But if you are a well-behaved child... and you can look someone in the eye and you can say please and thank you and you can articulate with the bus driver as you get on and get off, then you're a good un.
Listen, it's a hot summer weekend. What's back? Duncan, something's back.
Yeah, well, we've got a return to the 90s, and they're kind of linking this into the revival of Oasis, of course, one of the great bands of the 1990s, and their revival gig. And apparently we're returning to drinking booze that we saw in the 1990s,
like
including the Bacardi Breeze.
Alco Pops.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to see a return to is what I was drinking, bottles of Sol. Do you remember that kind of Mexican lager with a wedge of lime in the top? That was so 1990s.
Well, that was good until we had the coronavirus, and then everyone went back onto Corona.
You shouldn't. By the way, you shouldn't drink anything that colour. Anything that's the same colour as my green suit. Don't drink it.
But do you know what the great thing is? Because Gen Zs, and I've got a couple of them, mine weren't really like this, I suppose, but they never wanted to drink. And we're now seeing a resurgence of Gen Zers now coming through their oat milk wokeness. And they're going back to booze.
Hitting the booze.
Brilliant. Round of applause.
It's called Breezer now, not Bacardi Breezer, but I think we all need one, don't we? Big weekend.
What, now? A bit early. Claire Duncan, thank you very much. We'll see you next time round. Thank you very much. And if you're out for a drink, you might need one. Let's find out. Here's the weather with Ada McGibbon for you.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today, and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK, and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland. A few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning, and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky, and temperatures responding very well. Not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening, and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts, and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come, and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast. We've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast. But elsewhere, temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius, and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A701 northbound at Bloomfield roundabout is closed due to emergency works by Scottish Gas Networks. Drivers should follow the diversion route and brace for longer travel times. On the M4 eastbound, between junctions 30 and 32, resurfacing work causes closures, with diversions in place. And on the trains, Hull Trains is operating a reduced service. There is a disruption on the London Overground between Watford Junction and London Euston. Commuters should check train timetables for updates and plan journeys to avoid disruption. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister gets his one-in, one-out migration deal with France.
The very first time migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
But at what cost, as President Macron blames Brexit for the small boats crisis in a display that has some up in arms?
This is Brexit Britain. We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president.
And all on the same day as nearly 700 people crossed the channel, as we saw live on this breakfast show yesterday, as you can see there. Has this government lost control of our borders?
And the man behind deciding how the government will formally define Islamophobia has spoken exclusively to GB News for Chopper, that's him, political podcast. Here's a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression.
And the first hosepipe ban of the year comes into force in Yorkshire as temperatures are set to reach 32 degrees. That's 32 degrees today.
And the 12th of July is almost upon us. We're looking ahead to how Ulster Protestants plan to remember the Battle of the Boyne.
And is the key to a happy relationship working with Dawn Neeson? No, I mean sleeping in different bedrooms. That's the word on the street. But does it hold up? We'll be debating that very shortly at 7:20.
The late Pope Francis once described her voice as angelic. The one and only Carly Powley, the classical singing legend, treats us to a performance live in the studio.
The big three of Alcaraz, Sinner and Djokovic are all in semi-final action at Wimbledon today, but there are still fitness doubts over the latter two. And in cricket, Joe Root resumes on 99 for England ahead of day 2 of the third test against India at Lord's.
The heat peaks today and into tomorrow across many parts of the UK. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's just gone 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast. So thank you so much for your company this morning. Really appreciate it. And remember, this show is all about you, so we want to know your views as well at gbnews.com/your say about what we're talking about and what you want to talk about as well. And lots of you are asking where Ellie is today, and I just want to say good luck, because the lovely Ellie is getting married tomorrow in the south of France. I don't think it's a secret now. And the lovely Stephen has gone along to hold her hand. She's not marrying Stephen. They get on. She's not marrying him. But they are both, going to have a gorgeous time this weekend. So good luck, Ellie. I hope all goes well. You're going to make a beautiful bride.
You've got this.
So that's why you're lumbered with us. Sorry about that and all that.
But there we are. Having a good time. But the weather's here, though, isn't it?
Yes, no, absolutely.
And it's warm in south of France, but are we warmer here? It's going to be 32 degrees today.
Yeah, hotter than the south of France. I mean, you know, she could have gone to Southend.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been slightly cheaper.
It's a cracking day for sport too.
What did it get to in 2022? Was it close to 40 degrees? Wasn't
40, I think we hit 41 at one point, 40.
I went to Broadstairs that day. What a day I had.
Living the dream, Aidan McGee.
Oh, it was amazing. I've not been there before. It was an incredible place.
It is lovely. It's really nice. Nothing wrong with the Kent Coast.
Paraphernalia.
Nothing wrong with the Kent Coast. Lots of people are trying to get there.
I think the Pickwick papers were written there, actually. There's a hotel where it was written.
Oh.
Where Charles Dickens was written.
There we go. Well, listen elsewhere in the news.
Talking of the Kent Coast, let's move on to our top story.
The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has secured a one-in, one-out migrant deal. Yes, that one vaunted for weeks, finally, with France, in the latest effort to reduce small boats crossings across the English Channel. Have a listen to what he said yesterday at the Anglo-French summit.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
OK, well, it's worth bearing in mind this scheme still needs the approval of the European Commission. And to add another damper to the Prime Minister's plans, President Macron took direct aim at Brexit yesterday, blaming it for the small boats crisis.
I know it's not your case, Prime Minister, but many people in your country explained that Brexit would make it possible to fight more effectively against illegal immigration, but it's in fact since Brexit that UK has no migratory agreement with the EU. In fact, it creates an incentive to make the crossing the precise opposite what the Brexiters promised.
That was, of course, the voice of a translator, not Macron himself speaking. But that's all on the same day as some 700 migrants crossed the Channel, as we saw live on GB News Breakfast yesterday morning. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage had some choice words for the French president, demanding that the government takes a stuffer stance on policing British territorial waters.
Is Brexit Britain? We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president. But I think what we're facing here is a national security emergency. Australia stopped it by towing the boats back to Indonesia. We will stop it by leaving the ECHR, by getting the right to deport. That will work. If it doesn't, in the end, we'll take the boats back to France.
Some breaking news for you this hour. The latest figures from the Office for National Statistics have shown that the UK economy has contracted by 0.1% in May.
OK, well, Deputy Editor of Spite Online, Fraser Myers, joined us. Before we go to the small boats, that reaction to that news, is that why Rachel Reeves was crying last week?
I think it's one of the many reasons she was crying. She's under a lot of pressure. Her growth plan clearly isn't working. The UK is stagnating and has been for some time. And so, you know, that left her with the only option to cut spending, and her backbenchers weren't playing ball, so she's a bit stuck. I mean, it's interesting to tie this to the, you know, the European situation with Macron over here. Basically, we now see Keir Starmer as a bit of a lame duck leader. It's taken him 1 year to become a lame duck leader. Macron, fellow lame duck, was over here. It took him 8 years, in fairness, to become a lame duck, to not be able to get anything through, to not be able to pass things through Parliament. But, yeah, you just see, you know, two of the people in charge of the most important countries in Europe are yesterday's men, really.
And Fraser, do you think Macron was right to bring up the Brexit issue? I mean, obviously, we all know Macron felt very strongly about Brexit. We all know Keir Starmer was against it as well. It just feels a bit like, well, hold on a minute, the problem isn't Brexit. The problem is you stopping the boats leaving France.
I think that's, yeah, I don't think Brexit can really be blamed for this. I mean, if he sees the European Union as the solution to these problems, then, well, what's going on in Germany? What's going on in France? What's going on in Sweden? What's going on? Just about every European country has a similar crisis with illegal migration.
Yeah.
And they cannot... And the problem is, because the EU has common migration rules, countries have to agree on rules, and they all have different ideas about what to do. They've been trying to hammer out deals on this for ages. They've never come to an agreement. So the EU clearly isn't the answer to these problems.
And he said we've been sold a lie. I always think it's tricky, I think, when foreign leaders come here and lecture us on choices we've made. I think it's a bit impolite, frankly.
I think so. And there was a great moment, I think around 2017, when Macron was interviewed by Andrew Marr, and he admitted that, you know, had the French been given a referendum on whether to leave the EU, they'd probably say yes too.
We would have had Brexit, wouldn't we?
But I think that's pretty likely. You know, the French voted very heavily against the current European arrangements, you know, the precursor to the Lisbon Treaty. So there's a lot of anti-EU feeling in Europe, and that's because it's not working. You know, I think that we've seen that maybe because Brexit hasn't delivered us to sunlit uplands, there's maybe a bit of regret about it. But actually, if you just look over at the continent, see how badly things are going there, many of the same problems here: economic stagnation, migration crisis, spiralling energy costs, deindustrialisation. Rejoining is just not a solution to anything.
But, of course, yesterday, all this came on the same day that 700 people arrived here in small boats across from France. I mean, an utter kind of, you know, repudiation of what they're trying to do at the leadership level.
Absolutely, and you know, further underlining that Starmer's strategy of smashing the gangs has been a spectacular failure. The number of small boats crossings has reached record levels. It's gone up massively on his watch. This scheme, certainly the pilot version, we don't have the details, but if the numbers that were being put about yesterday are anything to go by, of around possibly 50 people a week being sent back, that's not even touching the size of the problem.
This doesn't smash the gangs, from what I can work out, and nor, most importantly, does it stop the boats.
No, I mean, it accepts that the boats will carry on and that a handful of people will be sent back, and it hopes that, you know, people will see a small chance of being sent back as enough of a deterrent. But, you know, there's already a deterrent in the fact that it's a pretty deadly journey. It's really expensive. It's not a pleasant thing for people to go through, but they know that the reward when you get to Britain is so high because you're not going to be kicked out. You will be put in a hotel. No one's going to stop you from working and all those things.
I mean, they say there's no silver bullet. This is one of several ways of doing it. But I'm struck by the detail that emerged after the press conference where I was at for GB News. And, of course, you hear all the top lines there. But it's the detail which will unpick it. I note here that lawyers can support anyone selected for being sent back to France.
Yeah.
And then once they go back to France, they're then let go, or I'm not sure what happens to them. Are they detained or moved to a third country? We don't know that. Can they have a go coming across again? Maybe. All sorts of elements there, and also the French police being allowed to intercept migrant boats. We saw one boat for the TV cameras being knifed by police, and that's it. So I just wonder whether, yet again, I mean, this is why, you know, Nigel Farage writing in the Daily Mail today, he thinks that none of the 74 young men he saw yesterday should be free on our streets. And I wonder whether the options that Reform UK will offer at the next election, leave the ECHR completely, will stop all of this kind of nitpicking at these deals.
Well, I think you do. One of the problems is the legal framework. And the fact is that, you know, many people, including people who commit very serious crimes, are not being sent back to their home country, let alone people who are just here illegally and don't have a right to be here. And that's partly to do with the ECHR. It's partly to do with the attitudes of some of our judges who are basically doing political activism in their role, let's face it. And so you often have these ridiculous decisions. And, yeah, you know, the legal challenges are going to mount as soon as the first person is picked to be sent back to France. You're also going to have, I think, European countries kicking up a fuss at this, especially if they think that people being sent back to France means that they will be moved on to Spain, Italy, Greece.
Well, in theory, they should claim asylum in the first country they land,
That's
which is
the rule.
often Italy, Greece, often Spain.
And you can understand why that doesn't happen. I mean, it would be, you know, those countries would be so overwhelmed if those rules were ever actually enforced. But, you know, you can see, again, you can also see why those countries would say, well, we don't even want the possibility of them being enforced, because they already have massive problems there.
Yep, there we go.
Fraser, thank you so much for trying to unpick the details of... You know, you'd have thought, though, Keir Starmer is a lawyer, which he never tires of reminding us. He would understand that there's a lot of legal issues with this that are going to bog it down for potentially God knows how many years.
The ECHR membership has not gone away.
No.
Fraser Myers, thank you.
Thank you.
Now there's still time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321.
Yeah, I'm not going to sing, shall I?
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's not really singing. We've got an opera singing coming up later,
all
so
the details you need for a chance to make it all yours.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Tomorrow on GB News, we are live in Northern Ireland for the 12th of July celebrations.
This week we have been looking at how that historical day has shaped our modern day life, but also how it shaped the new world of America.
Our GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie has been finding out more with the help of AI technology.
The Glorious Revolution had promised religious freedoms, but the links between church and state meant that those not subscribing to the Anglican Church would face persecution.
For Presbyterians in this area, life had become very difficult at the beginning of the 18th century. The Test Act was passed. Now this really was penal laws against the Presbyterians, and the Presbyterians saw this as betrayal. They had fought for the Williamite Wars, they had supported the government, and now the government was banning them. Presbyterian marriages, Presbyterian funerals were banned, children were declared illegitimate, they had to pay tithes to the Church of Ireland, public office was closed to them, And so many Presbyterians felt aggrieved. They wanted difference. They wanted to get out of this.
Many families saw America as the promised land, and living wakes took place as sons and daughters said goodbye and sailed across the ocean to the new world.
Some were driven by economic need, necessity, the chance of a better life. Certainly for others, the opportunity for religious freedom was extremely important. In fact, perhaps we shouldn't separate out the two. We should look at them as a combined influence on people heading out to the States.
And to understand why they're coming here is to very much understand that they were encouraged to come and they saw themselves in spirit with the Quakers and all the other groups that were settling in Pennsylvania. It was, of course, for economic opportunity of seeking land in the backcountry of Pennsylvania along the spine of Pennsylvania, the Susquehanna River, but it's also very much about being part of a very large dissenter tradition, a tradition that was not Church of England, that was not it was one that was arguably one that was not an official state church. And so they saw themselves aligned in many respects, not just with the Quakers, but later on also with the German dissenters. You know, these are the Anabaptists, the Mennonites and the others who also come here.
Let's speak now to writer and broadcaster Kevin Myers, who joins us live from Kildare. Kevin, good morning. Why does July the 12th matter so much?
It's a central part of the identity of Northern Irish Protestants. They feel that the flag of the United Kingdom, the Union flag, it was essentially finished by the presence of loyalism in Northern Ireland. It was completed. The flag combines the flags of Scotland, England and Ireland, and the Irish contribution comes from the contribution of the loyal element of Northern Ireland at the Battle of the Boyne. The Battle of the Boyne fulfills a number of roles within the imagination of Northern Protestants. One is the religious element, and the other is a secular element, and you can't differentiate between the two. It's very troubling and tiresome for people who are not part of that tradition, and I am not part of that tradition, to have to cope with the July festivities every year, because many of these festivities are extremely benign and they are about brotherhood and friendship and so on. But there is a dark and malevolent streak in some. In Moygashel in County Tyrone, for example, you might be aware that they burnt a migrant boat on top of a huge bonfire to commemorate, or I don't know what else they were trying to do, some kind of hostility towards migrants, which Northern Ireland really hasn't got a problem with. So it's a complicated thing within the Northern Irish mentality, but it's a central part of that identity.
And sort of there are lots of parades and activities planned over the weekend. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Yes, there are 18 parades in all, and there are in all some 300 bonfires planned. Some of them would have been lit last night, some were on Thursday, which was last night, and more will follow over the next couple of days. Tens of thousands of people will be marching, and they'll be watched by large numbers of Catholics that will look on the displays with a mixture of disdain, contempt and hatred. But very few Catholics will look on the parades with neutrality or even affection. It's not the way Northern Ireland works. It's a society that is divided. And not merely is it divided, it relishes those divisions. Each side wants to offend the other one way or another. The troubles as they were in the violent phase, they're over. But both sides seem content now to provoke the others, knowing that the consequences will be contained by the security forces. And I can tell you, nobody detests these processions as much as the security forces, because they do not know where trouble will break out. And I don't know, and I can't predict it. It happens almost every year that if there is trouble, it will happen where it's not predicted. So it's a tinderbox that's waiting to be lit. And some years the tinderbox isn't lit, and then some years it will explode in a place which is completely unexpected.
So it seems to be a question of identity, and it seems to be what people like to do to define who they are. And of course, the issue of identity is so important in Northern Ireland. I remember vividly when I worked and lived in Scotland at the turn of this century, seeing July the 12th marches in Glasgow and being somewhat surprised by that. But it does happen also in Scotland, doesn't it?
Yes, it used to happen in Liverpool and across England into the 18th and 19th century. They vanished there. Glasgow still has a very powerful tradition of orange marches, and bizarrely, Belfast quakes when Orangemen arrive from Glasgow because they're more vehement and more vigorous and more outward in their expressions of not merely of their celebration of the Battle of the Boyne, but their disdain for Catholics, their loathing of Catholics for many. And even in Northern Ireland, which is used to hatred, they are taken by surprise by some of the vehemence, putting it mildly, of the orange processions and bands from Glasgow. This is a cyclical thing which is addictive for both sides. And I say both sides, I mean on the nationalist side too. They long to give offence to Protestants. And Protestants, extreme sides on both, want to give offence to the other side. This is the nature of Northern Ireland. It's very wearying, but it is the nature of a divided society. This is true in Serbia, in Bosnia, and in Ireland.
Thanks. OK, Kevin, thank you very much. That is writer and broadcaster Kevin Myers from Ireland. Thank you very much. OK, now let's bring you up to date with another story. The former Conservative Attorney General in charge of drawing up the first ever legal definition of Islamophobia has spoken about his plans for the very first time in Chopper's political podcast. Here is a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression under law. There is an issue surrounding freedom of expression as against the desire of many Muslims to have some kind of definition which provides a measure of a framework which may help protect them, because they're undoubtedly at the moment the victims of really unpleasant anti-Muslim hatred. You know, respectable lady travelling with a headscarf on the bus will get casual abuse. And this is driving a wedge in our society that is, in my view, very dangerous. We are there to operate within that framework, and some of the stuff I'm reading about this is just, excuse my saying it, garbage.
But Grieve's reassurances have not been enough to assuage the fears of Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, and she spoke to me yesterday.
I have been very clear. We don't need a new definition of Islamophobia. You look at the grooming gangs issue, lots of people were afraid of being labelled as Islamophobic, and they didn't report what was going on, they didn't try to fix what was going on, and look at all of those young girls who paid the price. We had a definition on anti-Muslim hatred that allowed us to have equality under the law. You can't attack people because of their religion or what they look like. But no religion should be free from criticism in this country.
And you can watch and listen to the full interview with Dominic Grieve. It's a goodie, you don't want to miss it, on this week's episode of Chopper's Political Podcast on gbnews.com, and it's available on all your usual podcast platforms.
OK, let's briefly look at what that definition is, because it was defined by an all-party parliamentary group on British Muslims back in 2019. And it's this definition which so many are concerned might become a backdoor way into a blasphemy law. For those who can't see it on the screen, it says this: Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. So examples might be, and Dominic Grieve talked about them there in that interview, if you hear the full thing, about wearing a veil. If you're criticised in public for wearing a veil, that could become illegal. And that's where people are concerned, because the concern, I think, is that if you start protecting one faith over others, why not?
OK, I'm very confused.
Being a Christian or a different faith.
I'm confused, and I know a lot of you are as well. OK, so we have hate laws. We have you can't be racist. You can't discriminate. We have anti-Semitism, etc., etc. So why do we need a definition of Islamophobia? And surely that does open the back door to our to religious laws in this country?
Yes, I mean, Dominic Grieve is looking at this with a team of 4 others. He runs an Oxford Centre on Islamic studies, or or has a role now as a trustee. The view is that people in the Muslim community need protection from getting abuse in public, and it appears that this is supported by...
Don't they already have that, though, with our hatred laws as they stand, the discrimination laws as they stand?
They should do, but it's not...
Racism.
It's not... yes, but it's not doing enough. And Angela Rayner, the community secretary, she's driving this. It will be extremely controversial when this report comes back in the autumn. Dominic Grieve hasn't spoken before about this.
No.
Now he's talked because he knows that on our channel there was concern about this. On freedom of speech grounds, and that's where I think it's coming in.
But would it have impacted, Christopher, how we discuss the rape gangs, for example?
Yeah, well, yes, it would.
Could we be accused of Islamophobia for raising concerns about a group of mostly young white girls being abused by men of mainly Pakistani heritage?
That is the concern that the Tories have. That is the exact concern which Kevin Baden has. We'll be hearing from Chris Philp later, the Shadow Home Secretary, and possibly the Home Secretary yourself, and of course we'll ask those questions.
Yeah, and let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Really important, this subject.
Important and serious.
Yeah.
Time for your weather now with Aidan McGibbon.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today, and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK, and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland, a few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning, and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky, and temperatures responding very well, not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening, and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts, and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come, and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast. We've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast, but elsewhere temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius, and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Thank you for your company this morning. You are watching and listening to GB News with, we're not Stephen and Ellie, are we?
They aren't here.
No, you might have spotted that. We are indoor, Chris and Dawn.
OK, a happy spouse, a happy house. A couple has gone viral with their decision to sleep in separate rooms.
Oh, yes. But others would argue it drives a wedge between partners and say it signals a problem in the relationship. What about the grown-up cuddles thing that goes on? Anyway, this morning we are asking whether sleeping in separate rooms is the key to a happy relationship.
Joining us now is behavioural psychologist Jo Hemmings and social commentator Julie Cook. Good morning.
Morning,
both.
ladies. OK, Jo, is this a good thing, separate bedrooms?
Look, I've done a 180 on this. When I first did couples counselling, I thought, no, it's a terrible idea. Now, over the years, I've realised how important, firstly, the quality of sleep is. A lot of couples, they're sleeping with a snorer, someone who's restless, women going through their menopause. There's all sorts of reasons why actually having your own personal space in your bedroom or having separate bedrooms. There are now building houses with separate master bedrooms, in fact, so people can do this. And I think it enhances intimacy because I think it becomes more intentional, more deliberate. But getting a good night's sleep, and if your partner doesn't have the same sort of sleeping hours, insomniac, different working hours, is critical to a good relationship. So rather than resentment building up because you can't get any sleep, having your own bedroom and then coming together in another bedroom when you choose to, I feel actually is probably now the way to go for a lot of couples.
Julie, where's all the spontaneity gone in a marriage? I mean, having to book time in the other person's bed is hardly romantic.
Yeah, I agree. I can see why some people might need separate rooms, like our other guest mentioned, snoring, illness, people who are infirm. A lot of people, when they're more elderly, they need to sleep in separate bedrooms because, of health problems, etc. But I think we need to go back to the facts of, the bedroom. The reason we call, activity like that bedroom activity is because that's where most people have sexual relationships. I know, of course, it happens elsewhere, but most people end up having sex in the bedroom. And we're in the middle of a birth rate decline. I think it's 1.4 babies per woman in the most recent statistics. And if we're encouraging people not to share that most intimate space, then where will it happen? We're already having this birth decline discussion. And I just think it's where you're at your most vulnerable, your most intimate. There's nothing more intimate than sleeping and sharing a bedroom with someone. And I think it's quite key to maintaining that intimacy.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, I write for a woman's magazine, so I've written countless features about scheduling intimacy. You did it so well, so polite there, Christopher. Scheduling intimacy, but it does take the spontaneity out of it. I mean, what do you do if you are in separate bedrooms? Do you just knock politely on the door, or do you put it in the diary? I mean, how does that work?
No, I think you just something. There are no rules here. Just because you're sleeping in separate bedrooms doesn't mean you can't say, hey, let's sleep together tonight. And also, of course, spontaneous sex doesn't necessarily happen in the bedroom. So I do think there's an even greater opportunity for spontaneous sex. So I don't really have a problem with that.
It's still early morning, Joe, for that kind of chat. But Julie...
Pretty good time, I would have thought.
But Julie, but I guess the point of shift working matters. I mean, both Dawn and I are up very early this morning.
Not together.
My wife woke up, made me a cup of tea because she's lovely, but it could put a strain on a marriage, I think, if you're getting up early, waking the other person up, they can't get back to sleep, it can put pressure that way on a marriage.
Yeah, of course, and you have to be aware of that. But I think as well, though, traditionally and historically, most people slept together because of poverty reasons. I mean, it was only really the aristocracy and the royals who didn't share bedrooms. They slept in separate parts of the wing or castle, or whatever they lived in. Traditionally, working class people shared bedrooms, not only for intimacy, but because there were no other options. You slept in the same room and you're 2 up, 2 down. So I think that's why it's become the tradition. But yeah, with shift work, of course, that's difficult. My husband's a musician, so he's out really late quite a lot of the time. And when he is late, he'll sometimes, sleep on the sofa if he comes in late. But as a rule, we try to sleep together in terms of the bedroom being the place where, you're a married couple and it's the most intimate space.
Joe and Julie, we've run out of time, unfortunately. We could talk about this all morning. Really thank you very much. That's Joe Hemmings and Julie Cook there. Thank you very much. Let me know about you and your separate bedrooms, or do you think it's a good idea? I think separate bathrooms are a better idea, to be honest with you.
I think for me it's a great shame. I can't sleep without my wife, but there we go.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Still to come, Clash of the Titans tonight at Wimbledon. Aidan has your sport. That's next. This is GB News with me, Christopher, and her, Dawn.
That's so sweet. Oh,
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A701 northbound is closed at Bloomfield roundabout for emergency Scottish Gas Networks works. Drivers should follow the marked diversion and prepare for extended travel times. The M4 eastbound between Junction 30 Cardiff Gate and Junction 32 Corriton is shut for resurfacing, with diversions implemented. In Northamptonshire, a broken-down vehicle on the M1's northbound carriageway between Junction 15 and Junction 15A has closed one lane. Traffic should resume between 7:45 and 8 this morning. And on the trains, Hull Trains operates on a reduced service, with disruption on London Overground between Watford Junction and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Chris and Dawn. And now we have Aidan McGee in the studio to go through all your sport with you, Aidan.
Well, we covered Wimbledon and cricket in the last hour. We'll do that again next hour. But for now, I want to focus on a real mess that's emerged in football, which I don't think we've mentioned on the channel so far. It involves Crystal Palace, who won the FA Cup famously 2 months ago by beating Manchester City at Wembley with an Eberechi Eze goal. And it should have been a celebration that they went into the Europa League, into European competition for the first time in their history of in excess of 100 years. Now, the problem is that one of the directors, John Textor, US-based billionaire, he has shares in more than one club in European competition. So Lyon in France is another club that he has shares in. He also has shares in a club in Brazil. Now, for obvious reasons, UEFA and FIFA have rules against multi-club ownership. That's because, in theory, Lyon could face Crystal Palace in competition this year. It's open to abuse, that situation. There can be match fixing, they can swap players or whatever. You know, there are all sorts of a big can of worms that can be released if that was to happen. So what complicated things? The issue looked like it was going to be solved because Lyon in France, one of the other clubs he owns, was going to be relegated on account of financial difficulty. If you're relegated for that reason, you're out of European competition anyway. Crystal Palace could have stepped into the Europa League. Everything would have been fine. Lyon, though, this week won their appeal to stay in Ligue 1 in France, so they're back in with a shout of Europe. Crystal Palace, now the issue here is that Textor, the owner, could have registered, put in a blind trust, his interest in both clubs. He didn't do that. The deadline was March the 1st. He probably didn't imagine Crystal Palace were going to win the league, and he probably thought Lyon were going to get relegated.
Yeah, exactly.
So no issue whatsoever. UEFA are going to decide in the next few days whether Crystal Palace can compete.
Or Lyon? Why Palace? Why must Palace suffer?
Because Palace, I guess it's because that was a later one. I think Lyon was, it is more of an issue now because they've kept their place in the league. It's possible that both could be kicked out. But I think because Lyon entered or qualified through the league, it's slightly different because Crystal Palace came through the cup. There might be a reason there. But either way, we're expecting a verdict in the next few days. It centres along the argument around the argument of whether he had decisive influence at Crystal Palace. That's in the wording. He's saying that he didn't have decisive influence. He said Steve Parish makes the decisions. Dougie Freedman was signing the players. He said I was on the periphery. If anything, that was a part of the problem. They never listened to me. In fact, the manager who led Crystal Palace to FA Cup glory, Oliver Glasner, tried to bring him to Lyon. But he said that. I said, "Well, hang on a minute. You must have had influence because you knew this bloke." He said, "No, football is a small pond. Yeah. Everyone knows everybody."
And the poor Palace fans. That's the way I feel.
This is it. That's what it comes down to. It sounds like a tangled web. It sounds like it goes every which way. But having said that, it's the fans who will suffer. I'm hoping they'll get a stay of execution. If they are exited from the Europa League, they will play. I expect in the Europa Conference League, which West Ham won 2 years ago, Dawn, as you'll remember.
We did, yes, I remember. I've still got that picture as my screensaver. Thank you very much, Aidan McGee, for finishing on a West Ham note. Always makes me a happy person.
Thank you so much.
OK, still to come, Duncan Barks and Claire Muldoon are running through the papers with us. And there they are. Give us a wave, people. Thank you very much. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is a forecast for those top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK will experience Mediterranean-like temperatures on Saturday, it's not going to be quite as hot through the Mediterranean as it has been recently. For the Canaries and for Madeira, fairly typical conditions for the time of year. Breezy, partly cloudy, otherwise fine. But we've got this area of thunderstorms developing across northern Spain, the Pyrenees, Andorra, southern France. They could be quite lively. And for Italy, for Greece, sunny spells. Not quite as hot, but it is going to heat up into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You have to tackle gross levels of inequality. Now, this is not about being... it's not about fairness or the politics of envy. It's about saying we need more money in average people's pockets so they can go out and spend. What's happening is a lot of people are spending all the money on rent and mortgages.
People and give it to poorer people.
Yeah, but obviously, when I say rich, who do you imagine?
No, well, I don't know, because I'm not proposing it. You tell me.
So for me, I'm not talking about those who've done quite well, those who've grown their businesses. I'm talking about the billionaire class and the corporations. Oh. And I don't want to look at increasing income taxes necessarily. It should be about a wealth tax, because if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, what's interesting what you said about benefits, I know there's this pervasive idea. I just want to make that point quickly.
Finish this point. She's about to spontaneously combust, but hang on. Go on, finish your point.
There is this pervasive idea that, well, we need to cut benefits to force people into work. And you can understand the logic there. It makes sense, right? What's interesting is in Denmark, they have a higher labour rate of participation, which a fancy phrase of more working age people are in work than the UK. In 2022, it was like 80%, 2024, 75%. Look at the UK, only 53% of people in work, yet Denmark have a far higher or far generous welfare state.
Well, we've had a lot of cheap labour that has come in, which haven't. That's taken the levels of earnings down at times, and that's left.
I disagree with that.
Left. Well, just let me finish. And that's left a lot of people who already live here, basically lounging on the sofa and thinking, well, my benefits are great. Why should I get out of bed? Why should I get out of bed for another 20 quid a week? And we've got to get rid of that mentality, because it's the same
You're
people
using anecdotes here. You're not looking at the facts.
People
I've told you the
seem
facts.
to be contributing to this economy year in and year out, and a lot of them are actually older.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're watching and listening, and you're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with me, Christopher, and this is Dawn.
Indeed, yeah, and joining us now to go through the papers is political commentator Duncan Barks and broadcaster and journalist, the wonderful Claire Muldoon. OK, and Claire, I think we're kicking off with you first, aren't we? Just from a story from a Reuters Online story. Yeah. Tell us about this one. Sounds horrible.
We've got a lot about Islamophobia, we've got a lot about blasphemy laws, right, coming up now. And for me, as a Catholic, I think it's absolutely atrocious. We've had orange marches, orange walks from the time that William of Orange defeated King James II. And it's the resurrection of that. And I have been brought up with it. I was brought up in Glasgow. The whole city came to a standstill on the 12th. We couldn't move, we couldn't do anything, but we accepted it, right? There was terrible marches up and down, often on Sundays outside Catholic churches, the abuse. But do you know what? We put our heads down and we let people get on with it. We didn't see it so much as freedom of expression or freedom of speech now. We just saw it as part of life, right? But what's happening in Belfast, and I've got a vested interest because my eldest daughter lives and works in Belfast, and two of my daughters went to Queen's University Belfast. I've got a lot of warmth for the city. These idiots, in my view, have got these wooden pallets all stacked up. Now, I'm going to mention two incidents here. One in Belfast city itself, and they've actually built it next to the hospital, next to a substation with asbestos roofing, right? There is a very fine line between stupidity and freedom of speech. And that's, I think, where the lines are being blurred at the moment.
So what are they building these pallets for? Sorry, what's...
Well, they light them, Dawn.
Right.
They light them as part of the celebration of the Orange movement, which some viewers, and I know GB News are doing a full coverage of it this weekend, will say that the Orange Compatriot is a very charitable organisation. They do good works. That aside, how can we settle in our own heads this absolute defiance of anything really with regards to common sense? And then the other one that we need to talk about is the one with the effigy of the boat with immigrants on it.
A small boat.
A small
Migrant
boat at the top of it. And in previous years, there's been an effigy of a police car. We've had, and don't forget, we've had Rishi Sunak being burnt on Guy Fawkes night.
So that's a joke, isn't it?
Yes, but this I think, where's the line drawn, though, Christopher?
Well, I know. I mean,
this is a difficulty.
I think burning a boat of apparent migrants is appalling, obviously.
Well, the optic is.
Obviously.
Right, obviously is. We wouldn't want to see any burning of anything, but then they would say that why are we not homing our own veterans? Good point. And why are we... This is the problem. This is the rise of reform, Christopher. This is the reason why the populist vote has not been listened to in this country. This is the answer. Bad Brexit, and also Northern Ireland is deeply affected by by Brexit. It has. And I voted for Brexit, and I didn't think for 1 minute we would have this tangible border, almost intangible border of what we can and cannot send there. And it's for me, it's deeply upsetting and it's deeply worrying that it's going to destabilise. And children now that are being brought up with this, they've got no reason to do this. They've not been brought up with the Troubles.
Duncan, just briefly, what do you make about particularly the effigy of the boat being burnt?
Well, I mean, I think it gets us into the whole debate, doesn't it, about what is perceived as, and bear with me on this, fun and freedom of speech. And we mentioned Guy Fawkes. So in East Sussex, I think it is, around Lewis, they have this bonfire nights.
Boris Johnson was burned.
Boris Johnson, various politicians. We go, oh, that's just a bit of a laugh. Though you could make the argument that actually it could be something more sinister. So where do you draw the line on this? You know, is it a way of inciting some kind of hatred towards a group of people?
I don't think it
or a
is.
Politician? Are we just overreacting and being too sensitive to it? It's very difficult to know where it starts and stops.
I think we need to listen to people. That's what we need to do.
Duncan, £3 meals are bad jokes, says restaurateurs.
Yeah, there's a story in today's Telegraph about, the Telegraph are reporting the launch of state-funded restaurants, which might get us back into, a part of history where, you went to this restaurant, you were told what to eat, etc., etc.
Or COVID times.
Well,
eat out to help.
Well, we actually had them in the just after the Second World War when rationing was still in force. They did die out when rationing ended.
So they've done these trials in Nottingham and Dundee, and you can go along and you can have a meal for £3. But the kind of baseline to this is basically to try and get people to eat more healthily in the fight against obesity. So I'm going to be a little bit flippant here. You rock up at one of these state-run restaurants in Nottingham, and there's your very limited menu, and there might be an aubergine on there, which you might have because that's a healthy thing to eat as opposed to pizza and chips. That's one side of the story. The other side, which I think is really interesting, is the hospitality sector kicking off against this and just going, well, hang on a second, life in hospitality at the moment, running a pub or a restaurant is really challenging. We don't need these state-funded restaurants on the high street or on a patch anywhere because we find it hard enough.
Very briefly.
I'm actually in favour of it. I really am. I don't like state intervention, but I think these community things, I think it's a two-finger up to globalisation, and I want independence back, and I want people to have choice and nutrition.
OK, Duncan and Claire, thank you very much. We'll see you again in the next hour.
Indeed, Duncan, Barks and Claire Muldoon, thank you. Now it's time for your weather. Here is Aidan McGibbon. It's warm out there.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today, and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK, and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland, a few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning, and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky, and temperatures responding very well, not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening, and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts, and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come, and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast. We've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast. But elsewhere, temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius, and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M4 eastbound is closed from junction 30 Cardiff Gate to junction 32 Corryton for resurfacing work, with diversions in place. In Leicestershire, one lane of the A50 eastbound is closed due to a breakdown, expected to clear soon. In Hertfordshire, two lanes on the M1 southbound between junctions 9 and 8 are blocked by a breakdown, with normal traffic expected soon. The A23 southbound between junctions with the A230 and A281 in West Sussex has one lane blocked by a breakdown. And on the trains, Hull Trains offers a reduced service today, while ScotRail sees disruption between Partick and Belgrove. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
the 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister gets his one-in, one-out migrant deal with France.
The very first time migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
But at what cost, as President Macron blames Brexit for the small boats crisis in a display that has some up in arms?
Is Brexit Britain? We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president.
And that came on the same day as nearly 700 people crossed the Channel, as we saw live on Breakfast yesterday. Has this government lost control of Britain's southern border?
And the man behind deciding how the government will formally define Islamophobia has spoken exclusively to GB News for Chopper's political podcast. Here's a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression.
And some breaking news. A blow to the Chancellor Rachel Reeves as the economy contracts by 0.1% in May.
And you knew it was coming. The first hosepipe ban of the year comes into force in Yorkshire as temperatures are set to reach a sizzling 32 degrees today.
The late Pope Francis once described his voice as angelic. The one and only Carly Powley, classical singing legend, treats us to a very special performance live here on GB News Breakfast.
Can't wait for that. Now, the big three of Alcaraz, Sinner and Djokovic are all in semi-final action at Wimbledon today, but there are still fitness doubts over the latter two. And in cricket, Joe Root resumes on 99 for England ahead of day 2 of the third test against India at Lord's.
The heat peaks today and into tomorrow across many parts of the UK. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's going to be warm. It's just 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm Christopher Hope.
Wow, I love it. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is GB News Breakfast. So thank you so much for your company this gorgeous Friday morning. We have made it to Friday. It's nearly the weekend, people. Congratulations. And we hope you're having a lovely time. Appreciate your company. And remember to get in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. I'm loving this gorgeous weather. Oh, by the way, if you are wondering where the lovely Ellie is, and indeed Stephen, this isn't Stephen, obviously, Ellie is off celebrating her wedding. That's her legal wedding. That happened a couple of months ago now. April, in this country, and now she is off having the full-blown ceremony in the south of France with her lovely husband, I can call him that, G, and they are getting married tomorrow, the 12th of July. Congratulations, Ellie. It's going to look beautiful. Oh my God, that is straight after Ellie. Yeah, thanks for that. That's hugely helpful. That's me and the husband. He hates this picture.
What day was that?
That was the 12th of July as well. So that's my wedding anniversary on the very day that Ellie is getting married. I'm 39 years down the line. It's aged me enormously.
Oh,
and
wow.
who's that one? And that'd be you, Christopher.
Yeah,
year was that, Chris?
Marrying Sarah. We got married on the same day that Princess Diana was buried.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah. So, sorry about that. That's a mood killer. But it was a very, very happy day for us. But it was quite hard to be happy on the day of national mourning. They had to have the wedding bells were muffled. I wrote an article for the Times newspaper about a day of happiness on the day of national mourning.
That must have been really difficult. Did you ever consider thinking, oh, we might change it?
Well,
I mean, obviously so much was set up. It looks a gorgeous wedding.
You are insured against cancellation, but cancelling to be not to be unseemly on a day of national mourning isn't in the contract. I'm afraid.
That was
we got married. Yeah. But we are very happily married now.
Yeah, you are indeed. So congratulations to lovely Ellie. Hope all goes well for you. Stephen is there by her side, naturally, probably in a matching outfit, because that's what they do, isn't it? I'm not sure he's going to be wearing a white dress, though.
No.
Anything's possible with Stephen. Who knows? But congratulations, Ellie. Hope the weekend goes perfectly for you.
Good, yes. Good luck to you both. Now, we're joined now down from Westminster, down live from Westminster, by Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary. Chris Philp, welcome to GB News Breakfast. You must be delighted that this deal has been signed with France to control the small boats across the Channel.
Good morning. Well, look, I'm afraid this deal is another hopeless gimmick, just like Keir Starmer's pathetic claim a year ago to be smashing the gangs, which has dismally failed because record numbers of illegal immigrants so far this year have crossed the Channel, record ever numbers. This is another gimmick, just like the smash the gangs claim. And the reason for that is that only 50 illegal immigrants per week are going to get sent back to France. And that amounts to only 6% of the illegal arrivals. Now, that means that 94% of illegal arrivals are going to be allowed to stay in the UK. And obviously, if 94% of the illegal immigrants are allowed to stay in the UK, there's going to be no deterrent effect whatsoever. And the record ever numbers, the highest ever numbers of illegal immigrants that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper and the Labour Party have presided over, unfortunately, are going to continue. This is a gimmick and it won't work.
But you failed completely. I mean, your Rwanda plan never worked at all. This is a different idea. Why not give it a chance? I mean, how can you possibly criticise them, given your complete failure to control small boats in your latter years in government?
Well, firstly, in 2023, which was our last full year in government, actually we got the boat numbers down by 30%, down by a third. Now, the Rwanda scheme never actually started. There was a whole load of legal challenges. We had to pass a new law to deal with those legal challenges, and the scheme was ready to start on the 24th of July, just after the election. And the Rwanda scheme, by contrast to this, the Rwanda scheme would have seen 100%, every single illegal immigrant, the minute their foot set on UK shores, they would have been sent off to Rwanda. And that would have been a deterrent. If 100% of illegal arrivals get sent away, pretty quickly they would stop coming. But what did Keir Starmer do? He cancelled that Rwanda scheme just days before it was due to start. And subsequent to that, what's happened? The numbers have surged because his claim to smash the gangs is laughable. And this year so far, 2025, has been the worst year in history, the worst year ever for illegal crossings.
Chris, if the Tories get in power next time round, would you scrap this plan immediately?
I think what we would do, the main thing we'd do, is we'd restore the Rwanda scheme or a version of it, because the only thing that's going to work, the only thing that's going to stop this happening is if every single illegal immigrant upon arrival gets removed without judicial process, no messing around by judges. That's the only thing that's going to work. You know, 6%, frankly, it's not good enough. It's not going to work. There was a plan. It was ready to go. We'd gone through all the legal challenges, which took 2 years, and Starmer made a mistake by cancelling it. So if we got back in, we would restore either the Rwanda scheme or a very similar version of that. And by the way, I know that would work because Australia did something very similar about 12 years ago. They had a problem. In fact, their problem was even bigger than our problem. Even more people were crossing to Australia. Now, they used a little island called Nauru in the Pacific rather than Rwanda, but the principle is the same. And when the Australians started removing every single illegal maritime arrival to this little island, within a matter of a few months, the crossings stopped entirely, because if you're an illegal immigrant, why would you bother trying to get to Australia or indeed the UK if you know you've got a 100% chance of being removed? We know it works. Starmer made a massive mistake by cancelling it.
And just to be quite clear, you would then withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights if you were in power next time, Chris Philp?
Well, we've already said we would repeal the Human Rights Act, which gives the ECHR domestic legal force. We'd repeal that for all immigration matters because these judges have twisted the meaning of the ECHR beyond any kind of common sense meaning. They're letting foreign criminals, foreign paedophiles, rapists stay in the UK. That is completely unacceptable. So we'd repeal the Human Rights Act to stop UK judges doing that. And we are currently considering complete ECHR withdrawal. And we've got an eminent barrister, David Wolfson, Lord Wolfson KC, looking at that, and he's going to report back in a couple of months' time. So on the ECHR, watch this space. We're going to be getting back to you in the next couple of months on that.
Chris, do you think Macron talking about Brexit in the way he did was frankly insulting to the British public?
Yeah, I did see his remark, and I was very surprised by what he said. I think it was, frankly, out of line to be commenting, I mean, whatever it is now, 8-9 years later, on that. I think the British public, have a right to make their own decisions. It was a referendum, and I think both politicians in this country and around the world, including President Macron, should, I think, just respect the result of that referendum.
Well, that's how it all normally is with elections, respect the vote and move on, but he hasn't done that this time. Quickly on the economy, shrinking by 0.1% in May, your reaction?
Well, I'm afraid to say the Labour government put through the biggest set of tax rises in a generation, which they announced them last in the budget. They took effect in April, a couple of months ago. And what has now happened in the 2 months after those tax rises? The economy has shrunk. This is now 2 months in a row the economy shrunk. That's not happened by accident. There's no global recession. It's happened directly because of the choices Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have made. They are destroying jobs. Unemployment has gone up every single month of this Labour government. They're whacking up taxes. I'm afraid they're going to put up taxes even more in October. And what do tax rises do? They kill the economy, they kill jobs, and that is why our economy is shrinking. Now, to get taxes down, we need to control the insane levels of welfare expenditure. Kemi gave a very good speech on that yesterday about getting welfare bills down. Very disappointing that Nigel Farage doesn't support that. Nigel Farage supports higher welfare spending. He thinks we should get rid of the 2-child benefit cap so people can have like 6 children and hard-working taxpayers have to pay for that. So I'm very disappointed by Nigel's position on the welfare question. We need to get welfare down in order to be able to control and reduce taxes. Labour aren't doing that. Taxes going up and the economy, as a consequence, is going down under Labour, sadly.
Chris, thank you very much. That is Chris Philp there joining us from Westminster.
OK, there. Political commentator Theo Usherwood joins us now. Theo Usherwood, he's avoided the question on ECHR withdrawal quite deftly, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Of course, the Tories want to try and find a bespoke arrangement with the ECHR in order to implement the Rwanda scheme. He also said that he'd get the Rwanda scheme up and running, and as soon as any migrant arrived on these shores, they could be deported to Rwanda. Rwanda only at the time had a capability of holding 200 migrants. We've got more than 700 on average arriving in each week in this country. It was not necessarily the silver bullet given the scale of the problem, although you have to accept that, of course, the reduction of 30%, because even though it didn't work, there was a deterrent. People didn't want to be sent to Rwanda. It did come down from 45,000 down to 29,000 migrant crossings between 2022 and 2023. So, yes, there was obviously an effect there. Going back to, of course, what we heard yesterday at that press conference in Northwood HQ, one in 17 being deported. And, of course, this is a deal that hasn't been signed off by other members of the European Union. France has got nothing to lose with this deal because, of course, once they're deported back to the EU, back to France, then the Dublin Convention kicks in, and then it's Greece, Malta, Italy, Spain, and they are not happy about it. They've already raised concerns with the European Commission on this particular issue.
So there are lots of legal loopholes to go through. So many people are right to be incredibly sceptical about whether this will actually happen, and let alone whether it'll make any difference.
Yeah, and absolutely. And of course, we know the jeopardy that people, the people who are making these crossings, at the behest of traffickers, we know the risks they are willing to take. And if you're saying to, I'm sure you could get Patrick Christie's or one of your colleagues to go to a beach in Normandy and say there's a 1 in 17 chance that you'll be deported. And they'll shrug their shoulders and they'll say, I'll take that chance, thank you very much. It's worth taking.
Theo, while we've got you, we've got this interview today with Dominic Grieve, the first time he's spoken at all since being appointed to look at this definition of Islamophobia. Why is that so controversial?
The reason this is a particular issue is that there are concerns outside of government, people like Nick Timothy and the Conservatives, who of course was an advisor to Theresa May, is now an MP, that the way that this is being handled by the government is to shut down any criticism of extremism, that by saying that something is Islamophobic, you create this broader definition, and that and then you shut down this particular, you shut down debate on this particular issue, that we in effect create a blasphemy law by the back door. Now, the government has Yvette Cooper has said that she is not going to let this happen, but there are concerns that actually, if you broaden the definition and you see, and we know what we've seen in parts of places like Batley, if you broaden the definition, make legitimate criticism, and anything that's seen to mock Islam would fall under a definition of being Islamophobic, and therefore it would be an offence. And that is, Conservatives have raised a number of concerns. Actually, Tories head of reform on this particular issue about it.
I mean, and Angela Rayner's commissioned the review in a community secretary role, not Yvette Cooper, but she's on the channel at 9:15.
She is indeed, and lots of questions for her. If you would like to ask Yvette Cooper a question, by the way, gbnews.com/your say. I'm sure lots of you will want to put your questions to Yvette as well.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming to the newsroom.
OK, the former Conservative Attorney General in charge of drawing up the first ever legal definition of Islamophobia has spoken about his plan for the very first time in Chopper's political podcast. That's him, by the way. Here's a taster of what Dominic Grieve had to say.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression under law. There is an issue surrounding freedom of expression as against the desire of many Muslims to have some kind of definition which provides a measure of a framework which may help protect them, because they're undoubtedly at the moment the victims of really unpleasant anti-Muslim hatred. Respectable lady travelling with a headscarf on the bus will get casual abuse. And this is driving a wedge in our society that is, in my view, very dangerous. We are there to operate within that framework, and some of the stuff I'm reading about this is just, excuse my saying it, garbage.
But Dominic Grieve's reassurances have not been enough to assuage the fears of senior Tories, notably Kemi Badenoch, the party leader.
I have been very clear. We don't need a new definition of Islamophobia. You look at the grooming gangs issue, lots of people were afraid of being labelled as Islamophobic, and they didn't report what was going on, they didn't try to fix what was going on, and look at all of those young girls who paid the price. We had a definition on anti-Muslim hatred that allowed us to have equality under the law. You can't attack people because of their religion or what they look like. But no religion should be free from criticism in this country.
You really don't want to miss this interview, and you can listen and watch, indeed, the full interview with Dominic Grieve on this week's episode of Chopper's Political Podcast on gbnews.com and all your podcast platforms. It's a really good one. Have a listen.
OK, now another news. 3 police officers who confronted the Southport killer, Axel Rudiger-Cabana, have been voted Britain's bravest officers, and why not? The trio from the Merseyside Police Force helped to disarm and arrest the murderer after he attacked a group of children at a dance workshop in Southport last August, killing 3 little girls: Alice De Silva, Aguiar, BB King, and of course Elsie Stankham.
And the government is urging GPs to issue fewer sick notes and instead direct patients towards gyms and support services to help more people return to work. It comes as the number of NHS fit notes hits 11 million last year, more than double the figure in 2015.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, an incredible £54,321.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sing it because when I know what's coming up next, you really don't want to hear me sing, but we have got a good singer coming up next.
It is 54321. Here's all the details you need to hear to make a chance to win it for yourself.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. OK, now, still to come, the reason I didn't sing just now. Classical singing sensation Carly Powley will be joining us live in the studio to give us a rendition of A Time to Say Goodbye. You don't want to miss it. She is astonishing. That's coming up next. This is GB News with Christopher and Dawn.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today, and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK, and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland. A few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning, and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky, and temperatures responding very well, not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening, and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts, and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come, and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast. We've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast, but elsewhere temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius, and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sunday mornings from 9:30.
She left office 35 years ago, which seems incredible.
God, that makes me feel really old. I remember being at school when she was deposed.
Oh, that makes me feel really old, because I was way beyond school.
Well, I was 47 yesterday, so...
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Carry on.
Well, So there are three generations that have grown up that weren't alive when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. And there are so many myths that have built up about her that, and part of the reason I wrote it was because my personal trainer, I broke my hip 2 years ago.
Yes.
So I had to get a personal trainer to the rehab. And he's 25, or was then. And when he found out what I did for a living, he said, well, Margaret Thatcher, I've heard of her, but who was she? What did she do? He didn't even know she'd been Prime Minister. And I was like slightly horrified by this. So this is really aimed at those generations. You can't tell every aspect of her life in a book that size, but it really is an introduction to her. And the first sentence says, if you've read Charles Moore's 3-volume biography of her, please stop here. This book is not for you.
No.
So
it's an
it covers most of the
introduction to her.
important things.
And by the way, maybe that revelation by your PT does ask questions about the national curriculum and history teaching. They should do a section, shouldn't they, on our first female Prime Minister, arguably. But what's the challenge then when you're writing somebody's life up? I mean, and what a life she led.
Well, I found out that it's much more difficult to write a short book than a long book because you really do have to be concise. I was told I had 30,000 words. I said, well, that's a pamphlet, not a book. So I stretched it to 45,000. But normally a biography would be 120, 150,000 words. So it really was quite a challenge to condense it all. And what do you leave out? I mean, I wasn't going to do a chapter on Northern Ireland, but as I was writing it, I thought, no, you can't do that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to GB News Breakfast with Christopher and Dawn. And we got a treat coming up for you.
That's right. If you're a fan of classical music, prepare to be swept off your feet because the sensational Carly Powley, often described as having the voice of an angel, there she is indeed, is making her West End debut at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, central London, this weekend.
Yeah, and luckily for us, and even more luckily for you, because she is amazing. She's here in the studio today for a very special sneak peek. Carly, thank you so much for joining us. Really, I mean, we had a little sneak peek. You were practising during the break just now. I was almost in tears. Oh, you are astonishing, seriously
it's
astonishing.
An interesting start to the morning.
No, absolutely, yeah, reducing people to tears. No, but in a really, really good way. You've got an amazing voice. So, I mean, how does this all come about? I mean, tell us a bit about your career.
Well, this is really a dream for me. You know, my career really took off back in 2016. I had a song that became adopted as it was the official song for Pope Francis's Jubilee year. So that took me on the most amazing journey across Rome and to all beautiful parts of the world. But my heart really loves musical theatre and very much the golden age of Hollywood and Broadway. So the show this Sunday, it's at Theatre Royal Drury Lane, so right in the heart of the West End. And it's a celebration of Hollywood and Broadway.
Oh, wow.
You know, music from the likes of Rodgers and Hart, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Lerner and Lowe. And my special guests are sensational. So we're on stage with the Royal Philharmonic Concert Orchestra, so you get to hear them in all the glory.
Wow.
The tenor is on the way at the moment, and I have to say, I'm slightly fangirl with him. He's my favourite singer of all time, David Phelps. So he's flying from Nashville as we speak.
Wow.
An Italian legend from Puglia, which is the same region that my mother's family came from, Albano Carrisi. So all the Italians in London are very excited. And one of West End's brightest stars, Charlie Stemp, who's headlined in musicals like Half a Sixpence and Crazy for You. So it's going to be very exciting.
It's going to be an amazing night. I'm always struck by when I meet professional singers. Do you find if you're in a group of singers, maybe in a church or a choir, you have to dial it down a bit because you're so good, you're so clear and loud, or do you just go full in?
I think I just go full in. Anytime anybody gives me a chance to sing, I'm
Absolutely.
up for it.
And how did you start singing? I mean, is it something you did as a little kid? I mean, I can't sing at all, by the way. So, you know, you are just amazing. And is it something you've had since you being a child?
You couldn't. My mum always says if she had £1 for every time she told me to be quiet. It was really my parents bringing home musicals like Calamity Jane and Singing in the Rain. So with this show on Sunday, I've come full circle almost, because it's brought me right back to the heart of how I fell in love with music.
And the repertoire on Sunday, you'll be going across the whole kind of gamut of West End songs.
Yeah, it's exciting. You've got, you know, classics from Carousel, The Greatest Showman, some more recent numbers. Beautiful songs like I Believe, and also a few opera arias as well.
Well, just quickly, because we're running out of time, we want to hear you actually sing. What is the difference between a classical singer and an opera singer?
I don't really think that... Well, an opera singer would probably be depicting a story from an opera or an aria that takes place within an opera. A classical singer is more so about the production of the instrument and how you engage it, I suppose.
OK. Well, let's hear from you now. Time to say goodbye.
And what are you going to sing for us?
I'm going to sing Time to Say Goodbye,
Perfect.
or as you say in Italy, Conti partirò.
Oh.
Sounds much sexier in Italian.
Yes.
Much sexier when you said it.
Take it away, Carly Pally.
Carly Pally.
Thank you.
Ando sola, sola, sogno all'orizzonte, manca il parole. Sì, lo so che non c'è luce in una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non ci sei tu con me, con te partirò.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Carly. Well, thank you very much. Don't go too far. We will be coming back with more soon.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Resurfacing work has closed the M4 eastbound from Junction 30 Cardiff Gate to Junction 32 Corriton, with diversions in place. In Leicestershire, a broken down vehicle on the A50 eastbound has closed one lane. In Thurrock, congestion on the M25 clockwise at Junction 30 is causing about 10 minutes of delay. The city of Portsmouth faces congestion on the A27 westbound between the A3M and the junction with the M275, with similar delays expected. And on the trains, a reduced service is operating on Hull trains today. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Your traffic, and here is Ed McGee with sport.
Yeah, no, wasn't that amazing? Sorry, we are still stunned by the amazing Carly Powley.
I can't speak.
She was, you can't speak, which is not a bad thing. And you're a former choir boy.
Can you sing, though?
It was brilliant. It was brilliant, absolutely stunning, and the tickets are still available. Aidan,
England are hitting the right notes.
Are they?
Joe Root certainly is. 99 not out overnight. He resumes this morning at 11 o'clock, I think it is, at Lords. We dayed
17 batsmen have been on.
You looked this up for me, didn't you?
Overnight.
Go on, tell me about it.
All 17 batsmen have gone to make one run to get to the century. So history could be made at 11 o'clock. It's bowled out.
Well, look, Joe Root, since Bazball was first implemented, 3 years ago under Brendan McCallum, Joe Root was somebody who, having relinquished the captaincy, has really grown into the role of just focusing on batting, and that's why his numbers are good. 99, as I say, overnight. It's been an attritional day one rather, at Lords yesterday, and England stand at 251 for 4 this morning.
Test match,
yes,
really.
but it's the over rate is very slow. It's 3 runs per over. It shows, though, that there's tactical flexibility within this England side, because Bazball is based on the principle that we go hell for leather, we go for broke, we try and knock the ball out of the park and rack up as many runs as possible in the hope that the opponents cannot chase that target. Now, the difficulty is that India are very good at building a lead as well. They batted first in the previous 2 tests. It's 1-1, we should say, incidentally. But when it needs to be slowed down, I mean, Jeff Boycott last year or the year before during the Ashes in 2023 described it as batting without brains. Sometimes you have to show flexibility in your approach. England seems to be doing that. As I say, it's not a bad lead, 251 for 4, but England still have plenty of work to do, and the wicket is not really giving much.
But Aidan, on this, as a cricket fan, having a 5-match series with India is fantastic.
Yeah, without doubt. Well,
if you're watching cricket and into it, you get fully invested in all the players.
Yeah, and this is the argument for Test cricket. Yes, it's prolonged, it's elongated, it's drawn out. It can be dull at times if the wicket isn't very kind, if it's not very favourable for batsmen.
Yeah.
But I think this is I don't think this is a forerunner for what happens in the Ashes later in the year. This is a Test match, a Test series in its own right, and I think we're really enjoying it so far.
Tell me more about this football malarkey that's going on in America with Chelsea and PSG. Is it now? We staggered to the end of that.
Yes, it's on Sunday. It's at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. PSG looking like the most complete football team.
They are the best team in the world. Good luck, Chelsea.
In the world right now. Doué, as you mentioned yesterday, Barcola, the guy they signed from Napoli, Kvaratskhelia, I think his name is, absolutely outstanding players. They absolutely tore Inter Milan apart in the Champions League final, and they confirmed themselves as the best team in Europe. If they're playing another team in Europe on Sunday, i.e. Chelsea, it stands to the reason that they'll win that as well. But it will show us where Chelsea are at. They spent money in the summer. They even signed a player a couple of weeks ago, or less than a week ago, who scored the 2 goals in the semi-final to get them to the final. But I think there's a colonial mentality within football in that it's an old colonialist mentality. We think that all the big tournaments belong in territories that we know and are familiar with in Europe. It's fine for it to go to America. They've been desperate to get back there for any tournaments, including the World Cup, since 1994.
It's all about the money.
Of course it is. They made so much money there in '94. Yeah. They'd have gone back. They'd have gone back a week later if they could.
I was going to say. And finally, I mean, tennis, big tennis day on Terrestrial.
Evidently, there's a little
TV.
Going on.
Exactly.
Everyone can watch it.
Exactly. Taylor Fritz against Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz the favourite at 1:30, still the favourite for the tournament, and then a mouth-watering tussle at 3:30 between Yannick Sinner and Novak Djokovic. Djokovic looking to level Roger Federer's record of 8 Wimbledon titles, also looking to go to 25 Grand Slams in all, which would take him past Margaret Court, who's currently on 24, has been on it for quite some time. But both of them are showing sign of injury in the build-up. Yannick Sinner had a sleeve covering his elbow, although he looked very convincing against Ben Shelton in that quarter-final, having struggled against Dimitrov in the round before. Djokovic pulled up late in his match against Flavio Boccoli, but he has amazing powers of recovery. You don't get long in tennis. You've got to be up on court again within 48 hours. But hopefully that'll be a clash for the ages today. We look forward to it, and I'll be telling you about it tomorrow here on Breakfast.
Well, Aidan McGee, thank you very much.
Great to see you again.
OK, right, still to come, we're going through those newspapers with Duncan Barks and Claire Muldoon. There they are. Oh, come on, give us a wave and a smile. Claire, come on, try harder. Honestly. Any case, all of that coming up. But if you are... Thank you very much, Claire Muldoon. If you are in search of some holiday sun, here is a forecast for those top European destinations.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK will experience Mediterranean-like temperatures on Saturday, it's not going to be quite as hot through the Mediterranean as it has been recently. For the Canaries and for Madeira, fairly typical conditions for the time of year. Breezy, partly cloudy, otherwise fine. But we've got this area of thunderstorms developing across northern Spain, the Pyrenees, Andorra, southern France. They could be quite lively. And for Italy, for Greece, sunny spells. Not quite as hot, but it is going to heat up into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now imagine this. You spend your entire life dreaming
of public service. You work your way up to become the Director of Public Prosecutions. You then become a Member of Parliament, and just next to your constituency is a world-famous museum hosting
I'm imagining it, Tom.
waxworks of famous figures, and you dream that one day you will be featured in this mausoleum, for want of a better word. You become Prime Minister, and you think, now, finally, my waxwork will be on display at the world-famous Madame Tussauds. And then they say no.
And then you find out that Theresa May has one.
Oh.
Yes, so Madame Tussauds... There's Theresa May. There she is in her suit.
Yeah,
she was always one for colourful outfits,
Theresa May has a waxwork there, so does Boris Johnson, of course. It's reasonable to expect the Prime Minister would have thought that he would join the likes of David Cameron, Theresa May and Boris Johnson with a waxwork.
Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill has one. Harold Macmillan, apparently, was previously displayed. Tony Blair.
Of course.
Tony Blair, of course. But apparently, so Madame Tussauds can't be sure that he'll still be relevant in 5 years' time. That's the reason.
Is that why they've said it? No.
They can't be sure, so they don't want to put the money into it, presumably.
Wow.
I could imagine Keir Starmer commissioning his own.
And yet, Lord Salisbury had a waxwork, the Marquis of Salisbury, Harold Macmillan, and David Lloyd George, of course. But the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland...
Think about this.
...does not have a waxwork because he's not relevant.
A spokesperson told the Metro, "We have no current plans to make a figure of the British Prime Minister."
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with me, Christopher Hope, and the legendary Dawn Neeson.
Legendary? Yeah, not even in my own lunchtime. Joining us now to go through the papers and what's making the news in general across all your social media is our, we have Claire Muldoon and Duncan Breaks. Thank you. That took some doing.
Good to see you both.
Sorry.
It's OK, Duncan.
So it's been a long morning.
Yeah, it's hot.
Sorry, it's very hot.
It's hot.
It's or, as they say in Italy, Duncan.
Scorchio.
They don't say that in Italy.
What do they say in Italy?
They say magnifico.
Well, that's very much the case when we talk about lovers from around the world. So this is my favourite story this morning. They've done a poll of 2,000 Brits and to name the nationality of the best lover they've ever been with. I don't know if there's anyone in this panel who's got any personal insight, but here we go.
My husband's from Margate. Does that count?
We'll get to the Brits in a second. Italy, as the Mail reports, strutted into first place with 21% of respondents just going, they are the best lovers, followed by Spain and Greece in third place with 14%. Then Brazil took fourth place with 11%, and the French landed 9%. We came, as a nation, in terms of our loving stakes, at 4%. Yeah. This is my favourite quote.
This is Brits ready for not Britain.
This is my favourite quote of the morning. One woman who took part in the survey said she took a summer trip to Naples and she said, "I went for the pizza, but I stayed for Paolo. He ruined British men for me forever." You ready for this? She said the Italian had, quote, "incredible confidence and warmth, whilst British men just ask if you want a kebab and a cuddle."
I did wonder where that was going. Stop sniggering at the back there.
That's hilarious.
Would you like a kebab and a cuddle?
Yeah, I'm always up for a kebab, love. Claire, but there is all of these countries are hot weather countries. Come on. I mean, British men are normally in their thermals and their bobble hats, and, you know, there's a reason. Hot-blooded lovers.
You're asking the wrong person here, you really are. But,
Scotland,
well, not even that, Dawn. I mean, what's a lover? Anyway, it's a case of, how was the question posed and what on earth was the sample doing? It's just beyond parody, really, isn't it?
Well, we should
I think it's time to say goodbye.
It's from dating app Wisp, apparently. And apparently the Mediterranean countries dominate because they have confidence, eye contact. It's the way they talk, Dawn. Yes, it's all very magnetic. If you're in Spain or Italy, the romance is part of the weather forecast.
I think it's literally to do with the weather. I think everyone's wandering around in less clothes, the weather's nice, it's blue skies, and you're all in a better mood.
A little bit frisky because it's warm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in Margate, it's a kebab or a pie, isn't it?
There's also some rosé involved, isn't there, normally?
Well, there must be, but I think there is no stone left unturned. And we followed earlier on that Bacardi breezers are coming back. So the breezer part is there. So maybe that will help heat things up in Britain.
It's a warm weekend.
Actually, we mentioned kebabs just now, Duncan. This is another one of your stories, isn't it? The Telegraph, page 7. Put meat back on the menu.
There's a primary school in Sheffield that only has vegetarian food on its menu for their children, apart from on the Friday where you can have fish fingers, but the rest of the stuff is corn grills and pizzas. And parents are saying this is not right because some of our children are complaining that they're getting upset stomachs and stuff. And actually, as one parent points out, for the brain to function, you need to be eating some fat. So there's a petition saying, look, we want some meat, please, on the school dinner's menu. And they're lobbying quite hard for the menu to change.
Do you know why they're doing this? And nurseries are doing it as well. Because of the rising number of allergies in children. And they've found that there's lots of children through religious reasons are vegetarian. There's lots of ethical reasons why people are vegan and vegetarian, although I myself would say being a vegetarian's partly being allergic to food. Anyway, and also a lot of the young nurseries now are wanting to get as much vegetables and fibre into the child's diet that will then help the parents, when the children get home, that the parents can just bung in the turkey Twizzlers, the chicken nuggets, the chips, and let them have some. At least they know they've got their 5 a day. I'm very much of the camp that it should be a completely balanced diet and then separate for whatever. And I don't go down the whole rabbit hole of everything is the same for everybody. There has to be variety.
Of course.
Variety is the spice of life, after all. Let's have a poll in that.
Okay.
One of the things they're saying very quickly is that the meat is expensive, so schools need to save money. So by not having meat on the menu, it saves them a few quid.
Yes. Now, Claire, you've chosen a story from the GB News website.
Yes.
From this podcast that we do here about Islamophobia.
Yeah, now you've interviewed Dominic Grieve and Kemi Badenoch as well on this, Chris. And I think if we go down this route of having a separate law for Islamophobia / blasphemy, I think it's going to be to our detriment. It'll be to our detriment of the fabric of society. It will be our detriment of our civic society and indeed our freedom of speech. People have been, and I would actually go so far as to say, and I think we've proven this with Charlie Peters' great reporting on the child rape scandal up north, that it was precisely because of the religion of the perpetrators of this heinous crime that it was not being able to be called out, and we don't need it. That is completely the point.
Let's quickly read out what the actual parliamentary definition of Islamophobia is, and this is the one which causes so much concern for Tories and critics of this idea. They define it as this: it's rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. Duncan, what's your problem with that?
Is open to a lot of different interpretations, isn't it? Because someone may say, I don't particularly like seeing people with a face veil or a burqa. Now, is that a form of Islamophobia or is it not? Does that start becoming a racist comment or does it not? My fear about this is, well, it's not really a fear, my observation would be, you can't live in a country where you have this two-tier tolerance, where you say, well, you can say this about one religion, but not another religion, because that way you just create further division in a society. It needs to be a level playing field. We have laws in this country about inciting racial hatred already, so I think we need to bear that in mind. And we can't live in a country where we treat one religion differently from all of the others.
And what is it about the religion of Islam that makes people want to treat it differently?
I don't know, you're asking the wrong person here. My actual, if you want to look into it more deeply, I would say it's because of the terror attacks. People would say that Muslims have done them, Axel Rudipakana, Southport. All of these things would come together and the common denominator was the religion. I think that's what's stoking some of this, which isn't helpful either. I have some Muslim friends and they would say when reports come out of something happening, they pray to God it's not a person of colour and they pray to God it's not a Muslim. And I ask them why. And they say because of the stoking of tension in this country. But then on the back of that, I said, but when your parents came over, they weren't terrorists, were they?
We should say the Southport killer was the son of Christians.
Right.
He wasn't Muslim, but...
OK, thanks for correcting.
Yeah, it's and we've got to remember that we currently have a religious studies teacher in Yorkshire in hiding for the last 4 years because in one of the classes he did an image of the Prophet Muhammad. So all of this is part of this debate. You've got to treat every religion the same way. We can't have a law in this country for blasphemy. It's absurd. OK,
just finally, Claire, there's AI news in the world of folk called the Daily Star.
I can't believe this story. This is a folk band which took the charts by storm. They're not real. It's completely made up by AI. And this, do you remember last year a lot of creatives wrote a letter to the government to say, look, we're not happy with all of this AI nonsense coming in. We don't know how the messages are going to be stored. We don't know how it's going to be erupted. You can take anyone's voice and that'll be it.
So do we actually have a clip of them? How does this work? What are they like?
Raise your hand, don't look away, sing out loud, make them pay, march for peace, not for pride.
You can hear that kind of sound coming through.
That's AI. So, Duncan, that was based on a band you know.
Yeah, so, you know, Creedence, who had some hits in the 60s and 70s, and this is the thing, you can say to AI, have a listen to this, and then create something for us.
We better go now. Look, don't go anywhere. Thank you both, Duncan and Claire, for doing the paper show all morning. Don't go anywhere. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is here at 9:15 a.m. answering your questions. But first, here's the weather with that man, Aidan McGibbon.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is already very warm out there today and it's going to get hotter. Increasingly sunny skies widely across the UK and temperatures by the afternoon into the 30s in many places. But we do start the day with some mist and low cloud across the far northwest of Scotland, a few spots of drizzle here, some low cloud also for the Irish Sea and some surrounding coasts. Much of this will retreat to the immediate coastline through the morning and by the afternoon, for much of the UK, it's barely a cloud in the sky and temperatures responding very well, not just in the south, but widely across the UK, temperatures exceeding the mid-20s and in some spots up to 31 or even 32 Celsius. It's going to still feel very warm as we end the day across much of Scotland. We've just got that patchy low cloud affecting Shetland and perhaps some coasts of the Outer Hebrides, but otherwise inland, widespread sunny skies as we go into the evening and temperatures at this stage still at 25, 26 Celsius. Likewise for Northern Ireland, we do have some mistiness around eastern coasts and some of that mistiness may stray onto the coast of West Wales, but otherwise it's simply a clear night to come and after that hot day, temperatures aren't going to fall very far at all. Despite the clear skies, despite the light winds, we will see some low cloud and some mist in the North Sea become a little more extensive across eastern coasts of the UK by dawn. And we're going to start the day with temperatures of 16 to 18 Celsius, so an uncomfortable night for sleeping for many of us. And after that warm start, expected to get even hotter. Saturday in many areas likely to be the hottest day of the year so far. Not in the southeast, we've got more of an east to southeasterly wind here, keeping things cooler for the east and southeast coast, but elsewhere temperatures widely exceeding 30 Celsius and in one or two spots, perhaps the southwest Midlands, the West Country, 32 or 33 degrees.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M23 southbound in West Sussex, a traffic incident between junction 10A and junction 11 is causing lane closures until 10 this morning. Resurfacing on the M4 eastbound from junction 30 Cardiff Gate to junction 32 Corriton has closed the road with diversions in place. In Leicester, the A46 southbound between the A607 Siston South and the A5630 is congested, expected to clear by 9:04. And on the trains, Hull Trains has a reduced service today, while London Overground faces delays between Willesden Junction and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good morning. The Prime Minister faces a backlash after agreeing a one-in, one-out migration deal with France.
After
I was very surprised by what he...
Small boats crisis. After Brexit, after President Macron blames Brexit for the small boats crisis in a display that has some up in arms.
And all on the same day as nearly 700 people crossed the channel, as we saw live on this show yesterday. Has this government lost control of our southern border?
And the man behind deciding how the government will formally define Islamophobia has spoken exclusively to GB News for Chopper's Political Podcast.
We will not introduce some blasphemy law to protect religion, whether it's Islam or anything else, by the back door, and nor will it have any impact on the recurrent laws in relation to freedom of expression.
That was Dominic Grieve, of course. Now, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, admits she's disappointed as it's confirmed officially that the economy contracted by 0.1% in May.
And yes, you knew it was happening. The first hosepipe ban of the year comes into force in Yorkshire as temperatures are set to reach 32 degrees today.
And the 12th of July is nearly upon us. We're looking ahead to how Ulster Protestants plan to remember the Battle of the Boyne. Welcome.
Yes,
Good to
indeed.
be here.
Thank you so much for your company this morning. Really enjoying it. Remember, this show is all about you, so let us know what you're thinking. gbnews.com/.
I'm not Stephen, you're not Ellie.
No, yeah, I am Dawn. Yeah, because Ellie is off getting married this weekend. She's getting married tomorrow in the south of France, and the lovely Stephen has gone with her to hold her hand, obviously in their matching outfits. Possibly Stephen in a white dress, who knows? But yeah, it is Ellie's official big wedding. She's obviously legally married. She got married in April, but it's her big wedding tomorrow, and so she's going to make a beautiful bride.
Yes.
And so
special day for Dawn tomorrow. It's her wedding anniversary.
It's my wedding anniversary as well. Yeah.
Is there a picture of Dawn getting married? There's not one, is there? Oh, there it is. That's right.
Okay, if we keep showing that picture, I'm not going to make my wedding anniversary tomorrow because my husband hates it so much. So that was obviously 39 years ago. So
wow.
wishing Ellie all the very very best.
There's the photograph of me. Luckily, there's not one out there. So.
I think,
there it is. I didn't
yes,
notice
there
that.
it is. But that was a special day as well, wasn't it?
Yes, that was the same day as Princess Diana's funeral. There's my lovely wife, Sarah.
You're punching.
No,
Can I say
really
that?
am punching way above my level, definitely. But yeah.
But that was amazing on Diana's funeral. That must have been really mixed emotions.
It was
A weird day.
And we couldn't cancel it because we can't cancel it because it'd be unseemly on Day of National Mourning. We carried on. But
Anyway, so we've got a packed last half hour for you, including our Yvette Cooper coming on, I believe, for the first time.
9:15.
Yeah, 9:15.
Home Secretary, first time on the breakfast morning.
Yeah, so you don't want to miss that.
So there's a growing backlash, of course, to the Prime Minister's migration deal with France's President Emmanuel Macron to allow a one-in, one-out system for migrants crossing the English Channel. Have a listen to Sir Keir Starmer's announcement at the Anglo-French summit yesterday.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
It still needs sign-off, naturally, from the European Commission, and that's all after the news that some 700 migrants crossed the Channel yesterday. We saw some of that live footage yesterday on this very show, didn't we? And Reform UK leader Nigel Farage had choice words for the government after the deal was announced.
This is Brexit Britain. We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president. But I think what we're facing here is a national security emergency. Australia stopped it by towing the boats back to Indonesia. We will stop it by leaving the ECHR, by getting the right to deport. That will work. If it doesn't, in the end, we'll take the boats back to France.
We're joined now by Theo Usher, the political commentator, and that is the problem, isn't it, Theo Usher? You've got Nigel Farage saying, we'll deal this problem, we'll leave the ECHR. The two main parties won't say that, and that allows him to have an advantage in saying how we'll tackle the issue of small boats.
Yes, he does have an advantage, and because that was the blocker for Rishi Sunak with the Rwanda scheme. That's why literally the planes did not take off, and it was actually Boris Johnson.
And it could happen again, according to the reporting today. We could have more legal challenges to anyone who we try and remove from the UK to France under this deal.
Yes, and it may well be that even the Spanish and the Greeks decide that they don't want to sign up to it either, because, of course, these migrants, yes, they'll go back to France, but then they will be sent back to their country under the Dublin Convention in which they first arrived, which are those on the southern border of Europe. It's worth, obviously, we heard from Emmanuel Macron making the point, and I think it was, for Keir Starmer, damaging to stand next to a man who attacked the country over voting to leave the European Union. But he did have a point about the pull factors for this country, and especially around illegal working. And if you think back to when The Sun ran that front page, and they highlighted the problem of the delivery drivers, the bikes rammed up against outside, stacked up against outside migrant hotels in central London. The reaction from the government, the knee-jerk reaction from the government, was to send a junior minister to have a meeting in a week's time with the apps that facilitate these drivers. Of course, they're riders. Of course, they're using proxies to do this. And now, of course, when Emmanuel Macron comes over and says it's a problem, we now have a national task force to clamp down on illegal
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because whenever, and lots of our viewers and readers and listeners talk about this, there is a pull factor. The French Interior Minister has said there is a pull factor. But when any of us have mentioned it, it's that you can't say that's being racist. Of course, there is no benefit to them coming here. But quite clearly there is, and we have to do something about that.
And it's really, there's the obvious one around the accommodation, the fact that people can remain here safely, and given where they've come from. But there are also some, I saw somebody being interviewed, a migrant being interviewed, saying he wants to come and play for Liverpool Football Club. There are all sorts of things that people, strange reasons. And Macron said it, a third of people they speak to actually want to come to this country. But, when they've looked across, migrants in Europe, a third of migrants in Europe want to end up in the UK. It is a specific problem for this country that people want to end up here, and it's very difficult to see how this particular scheme is going to act as a deterrent, because inevitably, one in 17, a 94% chance that actually you can stay in this country is good enough for many of those making that choice.
Steve, what do you make of President Macron telling us as Brits we were sold a lie about leaving the European Union? I just think it's deeply impolite to try and criticise how people vote here. We never do it. We would never do it to the French or any other country. Why should he do it to us?
We saw the trouble that Keir Starmer got into when the Labour Party sent volunteers over to work for the Democrats during the US election campaign, and how that was viewed by the Americans. And of course, we were right to, and actually where I think Starmer and his government have been strong is just holding their breath in terms of, you know, trying to weigh in on everything the American president is saying or doing, despite pressure from the likes of the Liberal Democrats. But it is not good form for a politician, a president or a leader of another country to go and tell the voters or you know, how to do their politics in a foreign country. That is not the way it is done, and we have steadfastly stayed out of American politics since the American elections. And of course, Macron can't resist him. Can't help himself. He was going so well. He's had a state banquet at Windsor Castle. He's had 2 visits to Downing Street. They've pulled out all the stops for this over this 3-day state visit, which was seen, you know, as
we're paying for.
We're paying for a real opportunity, to reset, you know, relations with not just France but the rest of Europe. And then he turns around and said, "Well, you were sold a lie, and you're all a bit stupid."
Well,
I don't think it's
quite literally.
It's not.
Well, I think he's blaming the people who he says told the lie, like he would say.
But by dint of that, you believe the lie.
Yeah, absolutely. Theo Ashwood, wise words indeed. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Theo. Now, a hosepipe ban affecting more than 5 million people is in effect from today.
You knew it was coming, didn't you? Yorkshire is the first part of the UK to face restrictions on water usage, with Yorkshire Water saying the region has experienced its driest and warmest spring on record.
GB News reporter Steve Bennett joined us now from a sun-drenched Yorkshire. Steve.
Good morning to you both. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it is a sun-drenched Yorkshire, great way to describe it. And incredibly, I'm actually stood in the Batings Reservoir currently. Let me just step out of the way. Normally, the water levels are 50 foot higher than they currently are. And as you can see, that's not the case today. If I was stood here a couple of months ago, I would be underwater. As you said there, Yorkshire Water have issued the first hosepipe ban of 2025. Real concerns to make sure that everybody has enough water to go round. And the usual restrictions are in place. You can't use your hosepipe, don't fill up your bathtubs, don't wash your cars. And if you flaunt those rules, you're looking at an £1,000 fine. Now, I've been down here for a couple of days and I spoke to some of the locals to get their thoughts on what's happening yesterday. And here's what they told me.
There's not very much water, and it's like this sometimes, but it's been a long while since it was last like this.
I think it's terrible, but it's inevitable. But when we get the weather, the rain, there's nothing done with it. As you can see, it's gone.
Yeah, so the locals there, mixed reactions. Some people see it as a good thing that you can come down to this reservoir like I am today. Let me just step out the way and you can walk right round here. You can be pretty much underwater level. Other people are pretty concerned the fact that we've had the hottest and the driest spring on record, which means that the reservoir levels, like here in Batings and all round this area actually, are 50% lower than usual. Now, speaking to locals today, I just caught up with Dave, actually a local runner, and he told me that in 4 months, incredibly, this will be full again because all the water comes off the hills, runs down the galleys here, and it will be back to its normal level. But for now, hosepipe ban is in place here in West Yorkshire, parts of Lincolnshire and Derbyshire as well. If you're unsure on if your area is affected, get yourself to Yorkshire Water website for all the details, the restrictions, and for those who are exempt.
OK. Steve Bennett there from a sun-drenched Yorkshire. Thank you for joining us today. Good to see you again.
It does look very well. Do you know if you've got a blue badge, you don't have to oblige to the hosepipe ban?
Really?
You can still use a hosepipe.
Swimming pools all round. To join us now, more in the studio, is Nathan Rao, who, of course, the meteorologist. Well, good to see you again, Nathan.
Good to see you.
Yes, indeed, Nathan. So it's going to be a long, hot few days.
A long, hot few days, yes. What's going on? Well, tomorrow is expected to be the peak of the heat, which is 34 possibly even hotter. I've been hearing the meteorologists say that parts of the country may see the hottest day of the year so far. So I think it's 50, that would be hot. 35 to beat. 34 we think is more likely. But yes, certainly the hottest day of the year so far, maybe tomorrow. Turning slightly cooler on Sunday. Must mention that the east coast of the country is going to be cooler than the rest of the country, but otherwise it's another heatwave weekend on the way. And a heatwave, as we know, is 3 days or more of breaching threshold conditions where there might be a health risk.
Why do you seem to see it as a bad thing, a heatwave? Isn't it a good thing too?
Well, I think it's a good thing because, as I was saying earlier, and certainly me and Dawn sit often through the winter months talking about how we want the sunshine to come, and when it comes, it all seems to be doom and gloom. No, it's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing, and for most people, this hot weather is going to be absolutely fine, and we'll all get out and enjoy it and make the most of it while it's here. What the UK Health Security Agency is saying, and those are the people who have put out the heat health alert, is if you are over 65, have pre-existing health conditions that could render you vulnerable to very hot weather, to take extra care. But otherwise, yes, let's enjoy it.
Yeah, because there's thunderstorms in, 4 days, 5 days?
I think there is going to be, yes, breakdown on Tuesday.
Marvellous, thank you. Nathan Rowell, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. OK, well, there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win one of our biggest cash prizes today. It's an incredible £54,321. And here's all the details you need to win it.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, still to come. For the first time in a while, we'll be speaking to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary. That's next. Stay tuned to GB News with me, Christopher Hope, and the great Dawn Neeson.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Well, we have found some peacocks, so we've been speaking to people today, hearing from them how much of a nuisance they say they are. It is a real mix though here. Some people saying that actually they're all right, they're part of the furniture of this village now. You can see this peacock here showing all of its feathers. I'm going to be very honest with you, we have just seen it attempt to mate the peahen that you can see behind it there. And this showing of feathers is part of the thing, what they do to try, part of the mating call here as well, to try and show all of the feathers off and everything like that. And there's a thing that they do train rattling as well. I wonder if Mr. Peacock might talk to us. Mr. Peacock, would you?
Come on, Jack. Come on, Jack. We need you to get involved.
I'm not sure. This is your GB News, Jack Carson?
This is your big David Attenborough moment, Jack.
Any questions to say to the nuisance you might be causing people? Any response?
Although this feels a little bit intimate now, if there's a bit of a moment going on. It's all got a bit voyeuristic.
Very happy to talk to us so far this morning, but some residents of Tutbury here have spoken to us this morning. Take a listen to what they've told us about what they think about all these peacocks.
They've been here longer than I have, so I've lived in the house I live in at the top here 47 years. They've been there all that time, because they were from the castle to start with. The people at the castle used to have them, and they're just part of the village.
I hate them. When they do all that damage, it's heartbreaking, you know. Yeah, round them up and take them to a farm or a zoo, where they're supposed to be.
They're like the furniture. They should stay around here. You know, people just need to let them get on with what they are. They're nature's animals, and they deserve to live around here, don't they?
GB News, the People's Channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Doogie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations.
Right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's cross now live to the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who's with us in Westminster. Yvette Cooper, thank you for joining us from GB News Studios in Westminster today on Breakfast. How many...
Good morning, Chris.
Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. How many migrants we sent back under your one-in, one-out scheme?
Well, we'll develop the pilot over time, but it's a really important groundbreaking agreement, and it's been reached because for the last 6-7 years, while we've had this small boats chaos underway, no one has been returned to France. It's not been possible to return anyone to France. So this means for the first time, we'll be returning people who have arrived on these dangerous small boats. I think, frankly, that is the right principle. It's the right thing to do. We will start operationalising it. We will build and expand it, and the numbers will vary from week to week. So we will do that step by step, and that's why we're not fixing the numbers at this point that will be covered by the pilot.
So, Yvette, you can guarantee that we will see a decline in numbers of people coming across the Channel?
Well, frankly, no one should be making these dangerous boat journeys across the Channel. So, of course, we set out as part of our plan for change, our determination to reduce the number of these dangerous boat crossings, to go after the criminal gangs who are undermining our border security and putting lives at risk as well. So we need to do that not just through the returns arrangements that we've set out yesterday, but also through the change that France has now committed to make to their maritime rules, so they can intervene in French waters. As we know, their rules have prevented that happening, and that's why we've seen some of those disgraceful scenes, people climbing onto the boats in shallow waters, really dangerous overcrowding of boats that then undermine border security as well. Sorry, Dawn.
Sorry to interrupt. We saw 700 crossing yesterday. Will this scheme stop those boats coming over?
Well, we need a combination of the returns that we've talked about, alongside the 30,000 we have returned since the election to countries all over the world, and also the stronger law enforcement, and also the action within French waters, and also the action here in the UK against illegal working here in the UK that criminal gangs often use as a way.
I'm not hearing a yes or a no here, though. Will it stop the boats coming over here?
So the whole purpose of what we're doing is to bring down these dangerous boat crossings, because we think no one should be making those boat crossings. What we did say, what the Prime Minister said yesterday, is there's no single silver bullet, whether it's about this new returns agreement, which frankly I think is the right thing to do, or any of the other measures that we're talking about. We've seen 6 years of people claiming that one single thing, particularly the previous government claiming one single thing, or opposition parties claiming one single thing, is going to solve it. What we need is a comprehensive approach that looks across the board.
Can I ask quickly, would you worry this might get bogged down in legal disputes? The reports today saying that anyone selected from being removed under the one-in, one-out scheme will be able to launch legal challenges, so we get into the same drama as we had with Rwanda, with lawyers frustrating the attempts by politicians to tackle the problem.
So we've done a lot of work on this to make sure that we will be robust to any legal challenge, and we can respond really strongly to any legal challenge that is made to this. And bear in mind, We're talking about France, a nearest neighbour that is a safe country that we have worked with through very many years. And the idea that people can't be returned to France because it's not safe is just not credible. And it's the country that people will have arrived from if they have set off on small boats in the first place. So that's why we've done all this strong work to make sure that it is robust from legal challenge, and we will defend the scheme strongly.
Yvette, quickly, this morning we learnt that the economy has contracted again. It doesn't sound like Labour are doing a very good job at that growth that you promised us.
Well, we've got in place the 3 new trade agreements now that will start to feed through since the election. The Chancellor has said, obviously, today's figures were disappointing, but also that we've seen the work that the Chancellor has done, has set out, is about now getting business confident, business investment increasing, and also, crucially, the investment in the infrastructure, in the skills and training that we need to get our economy growing, and in new good quality jobs across the country. So I think it's over 350,000 new jobs have been created since the election. That's really important. We want good quality jobs across the country.
And Yvette Cooper, we've interviewed Dominic Grieve, for my podcast, Chopper's Political Podcast this week. The first time he's spoken, he said that this new definition of Islamophobia he's drawing up, which will come out in the autumn, it won't be a backdoor blasphemy law. Are you certain that can happen? Because if it does happen, your police officers will be having to enforce it.
Well, obviously, I've not seen your interview with Dominic Grieve. Chris, sorry, I will have to look out for it. But we do not have a blasphemy law in this country, and we must not ever have. We have a tradition of free speech in this country, rightly. That is very important. It's part of our long history and traditions and will continue to be so.
Yvette, when you mention free speech in relation to Islamophobia, we have a school teacher in Batley who's been in hiding for fear of his life for 4 years now. He doesn't have freedom of speech.
Well, everybody needs to have freedom of speech, and we also need, wherever there is any threat or intimidation, or wherever there is persecution of people for any reason, or wherever there are, frankly, crimes being committed, we do expect there to be strong enforcement by the police of those crimes so that everybody can live in safety in our country. That's the kind of country we are. And I was at the Police Bravery Awards last night talking to police officers who've done the most remarkable things, who've shown the most incredible bravery, and I think our police do work without fear or favour across the country to keep our communities safe.
Yvette, sorry, just quickly, on the definition of Islamophobia, why do we have to treat Islam differently? We already have hate laws in this country that protects religious beliefs. Why is Islam different?
Oh, we already do have religious hate laws, and we're not proposing to change those. We already have action around anti-Semitism, for example. And I think it's really important that people should not be persecuted for their faith, be it Christian, be it Jewish, be it Muslim, because it's really important that we have freedom of religion in this country as well as freedom of speech. But it's also important that everybody, whoever you are, whatever your circumstances, abides by the law, and that the police are able to ensure that the law can be enforced.
And just finally, Yvette Cooper, of course, you have announced your plans for a grooming gangs national inquiry. When are we going to see who's running that, and when will it be up and running?
We'll set out the details as soon as we can. Obviously, this is an issue we've taken immensely seriously. What I can tell you, though, is that we now have, I think, nearly 1,000 cases that had previously been closed by the police with no further action, where there had been allegations around grooming, around the most vile child sexual exploitation, around the rape of children. Those cases now being reviewed and to look for new evidence. So alongside the national inquiry that we set out in response to the Louise Casey's review, crucially, we've also got these police cases being reopened because, frankly, when you're faced with these appalling crimes, the most important thing is to get the perpetrators behind bars. So it's those police investigations that I really want to see taken forward.
In fact, interesting you mentioned Baroness Casey's report there, because she did mention to one of the rape gangs that there was evidence of non-UK national criminals involved in those gangs. We saw another boatload of young fighting-age men, all men on that boat we were following yesterday exclusively on GB News. Are you putting migrants' rights above the safety of women and girls in this country?
So let me say two things in response to that. First of all, I have already announced, even before the Louise Casey report came out, much stronger changes to the law, as part of the new law that we're bringing in order to prevent any sex offenders being able to claim asylum in the UK. That had not happened before, and I think we should have that stronger law in our country. That law going through, sadly, has currently been opposed by both the Conservatives and Reform. I think we should have that stronger law in place. The second thing is we just shouldn't have these dangerous boat crossings in the first place. That's why, going back to where we started this conversation, we're taking action across the board to build the foundations of a new approach. So being able to have returns to France, being able to make sure that we can have stronger law enforcement to go after the criminal gangs, and new counter-terrorism style powers also in the new legislation that sadly is still being opposed by other parties. I really think they should support these actions to go after the gangs, strengthen the law and make sure that proper standards are maintained.
Effectively, we're out of time. Thanks for joining us. Do come on again. We don't see enough of you on GB News. We love seeing you here on the channel. Thank you.
OK, well, don't go anywhere. Britain's Newsroom is back next, but it's goodbye from us for now.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather.
It's Nana and Ben. Here they are.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers in West Sussex should know of an incident on the M23 southbound between junction 10A and 11. One lane is closed, causing disruptions. In North Tyneside, the A19 northbound faces delays due to a collision between the A1056 and the A189. Traffic should return to normal by 10. The A14 eastbound in Suffolk is congested between junction 55 Copdock and junction 56 Ipswich Docks with a 50